one. Despite the differences we are having, we are the nation bound to be together, to glorify the human race. This is the Lord we believe. With dedication and the guidance of God, defending freedom's rights and justice to the world. Our song always be one. National Students Association, raise the spirit of young generation from different nations and different colors of mind to share the truth welcoming the bright light. Justice and freedom, bring them to all the unique words. Our God, our grace, be
Before we proceed to our main agenda, we are going to listen the greeting from the project officer. To audio, the time is yours.
Thank you, Randy, for the...
Halo, Pi. Okay.
everyone.
The next one, we will listen the greetings from the director of ALSA LC Undip. To Mr. Gregorius Alexander, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Randy, for the time and opportunity. Okay. To the Honorable, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Universitas Diponegoro, but in this opportunity is being represented by the Vice Dean 1, Dr. Tri Laksmi Indraswari SIMH. Welcome, Ibu Laksmi. To the Honorable Professor Dr. Haji Muladi Esa, Professor of Criminal Law at Universitas Diponegoro, Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto, as the Deputy of International Cooperation of National Counter-Terrorism Agency, or BNPTRI, and also to the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Makinahari as the Section Head 2 of Saudi Arabia, Directorate for the Protection of Citizens and Legal Entities Overseas, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Indonesia as the Speaker, to the Honorable, the Moderator of English Discussion 2020, Mr. Pulung Widihananto, SHMH as the International Lecturer at Universitas Diponegoro. Thank you, Mr. Pulung. To the Honorable, the Project Officer of English Discussion 2020, Mr. Aldio Farezi, along with the committee, English Development Division. Good luck, Aldio. And also to the respective participants of English discussion, and also my beloved fellow members of ALSA, UNIP, and the participants of OLMA 2020. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Greetings everyone, welcome to the English Discussion 2020. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to God Almighty. Because of His mercies and blessings, we all can gather here in this lovely day with good health and also excellent condition. This event actually is an annual working program held by the English Development Division for the participants of OLMA 2020. This year's English discussion took the theme of repatriation of Indonesian citizens status for former ISIS members. As we all know, earlier this year, the Indonesian government spotlighted these issues since there are many pros and cons that develop inside the society in regards of our government plans to repatriate the ex-ISIS combatants and their families, which were Indonesian nationality, back to our motherland. So I am honored to welcome you all to this seminar session, since it is a tremendous privilege for us, since this year's English discussion is equipped with the seminar session before tomorrow's group's discussion. This session is being held to help us all to obtain new knowledge that can immensely help us together to comprehend the material aspect of law from various perspectives, not only academicians but also from the practitioner's perspective with extensive experience in their fields. I hope that through this event, ALSA UNIP continually improving as one of the premier students' organizations that can set the examples on how law students should be prepared to be fit in the professional and global era. And I hope that this association will always provide a home and also the medium for bright law students to maximize their potential through various projects, working programs, and also activities that we will help. That will be all from me. Once again, thank you for participating in this event. Please take much as benefit as you can. Also, on behalf of ALSA UNIP, we are kindly sorry for any inconvenience or limitedness in our hospitality as today's host of the event. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Santi 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 Om. Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Last but not least, may ALSA always be one. Thank you, Randy. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Gregorius. And the last one, we will hear the speech from our first Vice Dean, Dr. Trilaksmi Indreswari, SHMH, and also we're going to open this event. So, Mrs. Trilaksmi Indreswari, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our Honorable Professor Dr. Muladi SH, Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto, and Mr. Muhammad Makanahari. First of all, on behalf of Faculty of Law Diponegoro University, we like to thank you very much for participation, for joining in the English discussion, repatriation of Indonesian citizen status for former ISIS members. As we know, according to the data, there are more 600 Indonesian citizens, former ISIS members, stay in Syria or some other countries. There are many pros and cons in public, especially is repatriation of Indonesia status for former ISIS is not an easy decision. So we hope this English decision today, we can give more knowledge from the participation, or especially from Professor Dr. Muladi SHMH, Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto, and Mr. Muhammad Maka Nahari. So enjoy the English discussion. I hope we can improve our knowledge, especially about the repatriation of Indonesian citizen status for former ISIS member. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mrs. Trilaksmi Indreswari. Finally, we will start our main agenda, and we will start it with the announcement of the regulation of this English Discussion 2020, and I will read it in Bahasa. Ketentuan pelaksanaan Seminar English Discussion 2021, peserta diharapkan sudah masuk ke dalam meeting room 20 menit sebelum acara dimulai. 2. Para peserta OLMA wajib menggunakan username dengan format asal kelompok, underscore nama, contoh, kelompok 1, underscore audio. 3. Setelah menekan tautan yang telah diberikan oleh panitia, peserta akan dibawa ke waiting room. 4. Selama berjalannya acara, peserta diharapkan untuk menyalakan kamera dan mematikan mikrofon. 5. Peserta yang ingin bertanya pada saat sesi seminar diharapkan menyebutkan nama, asal kelompok, dan angkatan pada kolom chat terlebih dahulu. Contoh, perkenalkan, nama saya Aldio dari kelompok 1, dalam kurung, testimonium de audio, angkatan 2018 ingin bertanya. 6. Peserta yang ingin mengajukan pertanyaan secara langsung, maka peserta dapat menulis izin bertanya dalam kurung on mic pada kolom chat tersebut dan diperbolehkan untuk bertanya setelah moderator mempersilahkan. 7. Peserta dilarang meninggalkan seminar. Apabila peserta secara darurat harus meninggalkan forum sejenak, harap menghubungi komite _audio. 8. Peserta diharapkan untuk aktif selama acara berlangsung. 9. Untuk keperluan publikasi, panitia akan mendokumentasikan acara berupa screenshot selama acara berlangsung yang juga dapat memuat beberapa peserta. 10. Peserta seminar English Discussion 2020 yang mengalami kendala selama pelaksanaan acara silakan hubungi narahubung berikut, yaitu Aldio Farezi 21 atau di nomor HP 0811 3055 698. And without any further ado, let me introduce you to our moderator. Our moderator for today's event is Mr. Pulung Widi Harihananto SHMH LLM. He is an international law lecturer on Faculty of Law Universitas Diponegoro with volunteer experience, legal internship on United Nations, legal associate on UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, and work experience as the Office Associate on UNESCO. And for Mr. Pulung, the time is yours.
Check. Thank you, Master of Ceremony, for the nice introduction. Well, I think I must confirm first that, can you hear my voice, right? And anyone? Okay, thank you very much for the confirmation. Well, first of all, thank you for gathering in here and welcome to the English Discussion 2020 with the topic Repatriation of Indonesia Citizen Status for the former ISIS member, organized by ALSA Local Chapter Universitas Diponegoro. Well, it is my great honor. My name is Pulung Widi Harihananto, and I'm law lecturer in Faculty of Law Universitas Diponegoro with majoring in International Law Division or Department. And today, this is my great pleasure and my great opportunity to be your moderator today to leading this discussion. As echoed by or stated by the Vice of Dean for the Academic Affairs, Bu Laksmi, on behalf of Faculty of Law, I'm very impressed. My personality is very impressed and fully appreciate to ALSA Local Chapter Universitas Diponegoro, especially from the English Department Division, to successfully to organize and conduct this such a prestigious moment in the form of English discussion. We must thank you for that. As we know that, in my opinion, the English discussion today will give some like beneficial impact and also insightful knowledge for a law student to develop their skill, especially to develop the skill to examine, to analyze and then to criticize about the current issue and to develop about how to make the legal assessment very well. And on behalf of committee, I also would like to welcome to our honorable panelist and speaker, Mr. Muhammad Maki Nahari for the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto from the National Counter-Terrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia, and also our Pratt faculty, Professor Dr. Muladi SH. Welcome and thank you for joining with us today. Regarding about half the panelists, I'm genuine believe also that they are very expert on that background. So in this context, that I'm very happy that we're very happy that we having them as our speaker, because today that we can hear by ourselves that the Mr. Speaker can deliver the point regarding about their expertise and also comprehensively analyze regarding about the topic today. Thank you for all the panelists. And also, I also would like to also welcome to the big family and also the member of ALSA Local Chapter Universitas Diponegoro, and not forget the candidate of the ALSA Local Chapter Universitas Diponegoro. We cordially invite you to be here. You not only to learning about the English discussion, but please also pay attention, because this is give a beneficial for you to develop your English, about legal statement also. And I hope that you enjoy about this discussion. Before that we start the forum, I would like to explain the technical issue on the Q&A session. As mentioned about the master of ceremony, the Q&A will be start after all the panelists deliver their paper, and after that the Q&A session will be open, and the Q&A will be divided into the term, and each term it will be allocated 5 minutes, and also is occupied or supported by 2 questions. And after that have allocated or accommodated the question, as moderator I will give back to the Mr. Speaker to respond, to answer the question, and after that we have made a closing statement if the time is supported. Before we start the function, we know that the topic today is a very interesting topic. Not only pro and contra topic, but also it's like crucial topic, because we not only see by the one perspective in international law, but we can also say about the duty of the government, especially from the country of Indonesia, to protect the civilian, or the citizenship that may be joined with the ISIS. After the ISIS lost the battle, the problem or the polemic is rising up. That's why must be the government to take care or to resolve the conflict. So today we will discuss about that. Before we have started the function, please allow me to introduce for the first speaker. Maybe I will write the briefly of the curriculum vitae in briefly to have the first Mr. Speaker. Our first speaker is Mr. Muhammad Maki Nahari, and good day, sir, from Indonesia. Okay, from the current position now, this is he's a second section chief of Arab Saudi on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in Directorate of Indonesian Citizenship and Legal Entities Protocol and Consular Affairs on Minister Foreign Affairs in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And another work experience, the first experience, is like second secretary or third PF consular in the embassy of the Riyadh, Arab Saudi, in the 2016 until 2019. The author assignment, and he's also the member of the Garuda, the Continent Indonesia Observer Team at the International Monitoring Team in TPI IMT in Mindanao, Philippines, 2015. Without further ado, so I giving the floor to the Mr. Muhammad Maki Nahari. For Mr. Muhammad Maki Nahari, you might take the floor. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam sejahtera kita semua. Your Excellency Professor Dr. Muladi SH, former Law Minister as well as former the Governor of Lemhanas. Pak Andika Krishna Yudanto, is there? Pak Andika sudah bergabung tuh? Andika Krishna Yudanto, the Deputy for International Relations, for International Cooperation at National Agency for Combating Terrorism. Ibu Ibu Dr. Trilaksmi Indreswari, Vice Dean at the Faculty of Law, Diponegoro, Universitas Diponegoro. And also to Pak Pulung, thank you for your kind words of introduction for me, and I'm more than happy and privileged to join this meeting, ASEAN Law Students Association. And this is the activities that I think we need to develop. During the pandemic, we still have a spirit and okay. Can you hear my voice? Apakah kedengaran suara?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just drowned in a lonely night.
And I apologize that I made my presentation on Bahasa because yesterday I was informed that the presentation will be in Bahasa Indonesia. So my apologize if I convey the material on bilingual. Yeah, next. In general, I will talk about the decision of the government of the Republic of Indonesia, as well as the role of Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then the challenges we face in this issue. Next. 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 On 2014, the ISIS has been declared. The establishment of ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and from that 2014 the ISIS has been involved and carried out a series of acts of violence, murder, and claim of responsibility for more than 140 terrorist attacks in 29 countries in the world. Mungkin bisa ke slide sebelumnya dulu. Bisa slide sebelumnya. Nah. And after the establishment of ISIS, some of Indonesian nationals or of Indonesian citizens, as well as the nationals from other countries, leaving their countries for joining the ISIS, and it happened until 2018. On 2016, the ISIS lost their control for some areas, both in Iraq and Syria. And finally, on 2019, the Syrian Democratic Forces declared that they defeated ISIS at their last battle at Raqqa. Next. After the defeat of ISIS, there's some issue regarding the citizens, the nationals of other countries that who were joining the ISIS, and there's a pressure for countries to repatriate their citizens from the camp. But generally, there's two decisions have been taken by some countries. Firstly, some countries refuse to repatriate their citizens due to security reasons. And secondly, they do the repatriation with limited and selective cluster. like Australia repatriate only orphan, only citizen, only children, the orphan children, the children there who has no father and has no mother, that their parents has been killed in the battle. So Australia repatriate only the orphan children. Next. Regarding the Indonesian citizen or WNA, the government of Indonesia has been decided that the government refused to repatriate the combatant, but the government now still elaborate and they elaborate to repatriate the kids under 10 years old. Due to that matter, the government already has foreign terrorist fighters led by the National Agency for Combating Terrorism, the task force.
Hello, Pak Muhammad Maki. Are you still there? Sorry, sir. Are you still there? Maybe the committee can follow up.
I'm in. Sorry. My apologies for unstable connection. The government has formed the task force from various ministries and institutions by National Agency for Combating Terrorism. This task force, one of the responsibility of the task force is to make some assessment regarding the plan to repatriate Indonesian citizen or kids under 10 years old. This plan has some consideration. Three aspects that have been considered in this plan is security aspect, then human rights aspect. Next slide. In security aspect, the government now assessing the impact and the impact of repatriating the children under 10 years old. And regarding the law, the government considering the effect that will spread by the combatants, so the government decided not to repatriate the ex-combatant. Regarding the
Sorry, sir. Are you still there? Okay, maybe we're waiting. I'm so sorry on behalf of the committee. We have so sorry for the inconvenience. Maybe that we're waiting Mr. First Speaker maybe do to just fix up about have the connection, because the connection is unstable. So we're waiting for the first speaker to just fix it up. Okay, I think the first speaker is also joined again. Okay, maybe you can continue and proceed the time, Pak Maki. Thank you very much. Okay, while waiting about the Mr. Maki continue the presentation, I would like to make sure for the all have the participant, if you have a question, point of confirmation, or maybe the response, you can also like deliver or drop your question on the chat. Okay, Mr. Maki, thank you for joining again.
Thank you, Pak Pulung. I apologize for the inconvenience. The connection in my area is unstable. So the decision of the government to not repatriate the ex-combatant based on three aspects or three considerations. First one is the security consideration, security aspect. Second one is rule of law, and the third one is human rights aspect. Next. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is one of the ministry or institution that include and involved in the Satuan Tugas or Task Force for Foreign Terrorist Fighters. The role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the task force is to collect in data collection and also in verification, because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have the embassies, Indonesian embassies abroad is under coordination of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, Ministry of Foreign Affairs through our representative abroad is first responder in data collection, in collecting the data, and also to verify the data. And after that, the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is to communicate with other parties, with the counterparts abroad, such as Indonesian organization, embassies, or the government of other countries that have some issues regarding the ISIS ex-combatant. And then the role of the ministry is to form the assessment, to assess the recommendation on how we have on how the government should handle the ex-ISIS. Next. And the challenges that we face in this issue, there's some challenges we are facing in this issue. First one, the validity and the detailed data of Indonesian citizens in camp. Now everybody has the data. Every institution has data. So there is challenges to make consolidated and verified data from all parties, from all institutions. The second challenge is access. The access to camp. There is a camp for ISIS combatant located in North Syria. and the access to that camp is located in northern Syria, that is under control of Syrian Democratic Forces, not un, not not in the under control of the government, but in Syrian Democratic Forces. There's some difficulties to deal with the SDF. So now we are still uh, preparing and assessing how to do so. The third one, the challenges is to prepare the mechanism and facilities at home or in Indonesia after repatriation. How we handle it. The National Agency for Combating Terrorism has some programs like the radicalization and so on. But in this issue, we also have to manage the mechanism to handle the children under 10 years old. The fourth and the fifth challenges is public opinion as well as international opinion. Now, after the government declaring the plan to repatriate Indonesian citizens from Raqqa, from Syria, there is some hesitation from public, from domestic public. But in the global stage, in the international stage, there is some organization and as well as some countries that stressing the importance of human rights. So they have, from their view, that every countries have to repatriate their citizens from the ISIS area. Next. And under the task force coordinated for Law and Security Affairs and also led by National Agency for Counter-Terrorism, now Security Task Force is ongoing process to tackle all challenges as well as to prepare a good mechanism in three aspects. First one is before border. Now we are doing before border, that is data verification as well as consolidated data, and then at border, and then we have to prepare for after border. What the government will do if we conduct repatriation, and what we have to do if the kids or Indonesian children under 10 years have been repatriated to Indonesia. Now, under the task force is doing all the things due to that matter. I think there's some brief presentation, and we'll continue in discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the first, Mr. Speaker. Because I think that the point in here is very important to us to understanding about that conflict. The first speaker is already to just like analyze and also examine regarding about the duty of the government. To solve the solution based on the policy, and also there has also other challenges that maybe to be having a big obstacle that maybe also be challenges from the another speaker and another the government in Indonesia to give back or to bringing back about the citizenship Indonesia that bring back to the Indonesia. Well, maybe I will be open the question answer in here. For the first time, maybe I need some one or two questions from the participants. Maybe if you have any question, please kindly you raise your hand or maybe drop your question to the chat. In matter that maybe you have very difficult to deliver question in English, so you can proceed to speak in Bahasa. I will maybe translate to the English and I'm giving back to the other Mr. Speaker. Is there any a question on the floors? Please kindly for the participant to proactively. Is there any? Okay, maybe they're just thinking that how very good the PowerPoint they delivered by Mr. Maki. Okay, we're waiting about the question from the participants. Maybe I have some question, Pak Maki. May I to deliver the question? Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Maybe we just like maybe to be debating for the another participant to stimulate to deliver the question also. Okay. I mean like to what extent to what extent I mean like the aid or maybe the help for another from the Minister of the Foreign Affairs to bring back or maybe to dissolve this solution. I feel like they have so
I
many.
cannot hear your voice. Can you repeat?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. To what extent? I mean, like from the perspective of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, how far? I mean, like the help from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to dissolve the problem. I mean that how so far that they just like dissolve the problem itself. Can you hear my voice, Pak Maki? Okay, maybe they do it. Okay, they have something the technical way because the one of the challenging of the webinar, I think that one of the factor is like unstable internet. We should have to be aware for that, and it's okay, no problem. And well, maybe I have some question to you guys, maybe to discuss also. We should have criticized how far the help by the Minister of Foreign Affairs can resolve this problem as long that problem is very very long problems. So it's like that. Hello, Pak Maki, can you hear my voice?
Pak Pulung, can you repeat the questions?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, because I was off. I apologize.
With pleasure. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe because you're working in your station is like the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I mean, like how far the contributions from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to dissolve the case, to dissolve this problem. How far? Sejauh mana, Pak?
Okay, understood. Yes. So, Pak Pulung, if I'm not mistaken, you are asking the contribution from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for in the issue or the solution for this repatriation.
Yes, yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Okay. Do I have to answer it directly, or there will be a Q&A section after the presentation? Or?
No, I mean like yes.
Okay. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is one of the ministries that has been involved from the beginning due to the plan of the Yes, yeah. Yeah, Pak Pulung, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is one of the institutions that has been involved from the beginning regarding the plan of repatriation, because Ministry of there's a directorate and director general from the ministry that is in charge in the issue of terrorism as well as repatriation. We have a directorate for international security and disarmament that is in charge for terrorism issue, and as well as we have directorate for citizen protection abroad that is in charge for to the Indonesian citizen. So the contribution of the ministry, I think, can can be referred to its role in the task force. So the
Hilang lagi.
With all due respect, sir, your voice I think is not raising up, and I can hear your voice. Okay, no problem. This is the major obstacle that we established the seminar via webinar. It's okay. Due that we waiting about the Mr. Maki join with us again, so I please remind to all have the participant. Please kindly you deliver the question at least point of confirmation. In matter that you can have a difficulties to just asking question or deliver question in English, it's okay that you can deliver in Bahasa. I would like to maybe translate for you. Okay, okay. Thank you, Dennis. We waiting that Mr. Maki come back.
I mean, sorry, I have to search another place to
Yes, please, sir. It's
to,
okay. You might
have
take.
a better connection. It's the contribution of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yeah, the contribution of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in this issue can be referred to its role in the task force of the FTF. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is one of the institutions that is in charge on terrorism. We have Directorate for and Disarmament that is in charge on terrorism and other issues related to that, and also have the ministry has Directorate for Citizen Protection abroad that is in charge in protecting Indonesian citizens abroad. Now we have a series of meetings. Last month we meet with the Australian embassy to have some insight and some to share best practices, because Australia have repatriated the children, the orphan children, like I said before. They only repatriate the kid that have no parents, that their parents have been killed in the battlefield, and Australia needs more than 1 year. One year to prepare everything, like to validate and verify the data, as well as to test the families in Australia, and to prepare the law aspect or to treat the children. As well as we had a meeting with ICRC. ICRC is one of our counterparts that is very active and give more and they always give a fruitful input, such as data, such as the information. Because for information, ICRC is one of the international organizations that has an access to the camp, to the North Syrian, to the northern Syrian. They have a very good relation with good communication. They already built a good relation with Syrian Democratic Forces, so they can go to the camp and have some data and some interview with the combatants there. So the contribution of the ministries, at the task force is for now is in the aspect of data, and as well as to have some communication with other counterparts to take or to seek best practices sharing, or to seek the insight on how the insight that or best practices that the government of Indonesia can copy and paste in our country. I think like that. Pak Pulung.
sir. We
Yes,
hope
hello.
you still pray with us.
Yes, still.
Hello, sir.
Hello, hello. Still, Pak. I'm in. Hello. Hello, Pak. Halo. Apakah bisa didengar? Tes, 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 tes. Halo.
Hello, we can hear your voice, Mr.
Yes.
I think there's some trouble with with our moderator connection. Maybe we'll just waiting for him to
Yes, Pak.
join.
Pak Mr. Andi.
We can hear your voice, but I think there's some issue on our moderator connection. So maybe we just waiting for him to join this room again.
Yes. Yes, I am in.
We're still trying to gather.
I have some question from participant in group chat.
Okay.
Okay, can you
There
hear
any
my
question
voice?
from all of you, the participants?
Okay.
Or Mr. Pulong, are you already here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think
Okay.
until I lost connection also. I'm so sorry for that. I'm sorry for inconvenience. Yeah.
I
Well,
give the time.
yeah, I'm sorry, Randy, for handling this first major. Okay. Well, they have a question that from Dennis from the group number two, regarding about what platform does government provide for people who aren't really aware why we should or should not repatriate the people in question. That's the first question from the Dennis, and then also we have question from the audio. Is there any cases in the Indonesian citizenship that already repatriated doing radicalization again in Indonesia? I think they have two questions, sir. Maybe you can answer it. Thank you very much. Is there any? Okay, I think. Okay, maybe on behalf of the committee, we will still have continue or to moving to another speaker, or we still have continue the session. Which one better? Okay, Mr. Maki, can you hear my voice? Or I hope that you can join with us again in this session. Okay, we're very happy that we have two questions for the participants, and maybe the committee will be have notified that we have two questions. In matter that we have do the time, maybe we can also send the question to the Mr. Maki, and beside another from the webinar, maybe you can answer Mr. Maki in personal, right? So while that we're waiting that Mr. Muhammad Maki to join with us again, is there any question? Or maybe I give a sign for what's next, or maybe we still on the first session.
Yes, may I to
Yeah,
respond
yes. You may proceed. Okay.
for the question regarding is there any Indonesian citizen that has been repatriated? Just for your info, that there is some Indonesian citizen that has have been repatriated or deported. So the they deported from Syria or Turkey. The citizen they are going to join the ISIS in Raqqa, but somehow the in, police or at the border, they were caught and then they deported to Indonesia. There's some, I think, approximately 18% on 2016 and 2018. And for the platform that government provides to the citizen, that perhaps they were not really aware regarding the issue to repatriate or to not repatriate. Now we are forming the information, just like some narration, some information to be spread to the public. In the ministry itself, in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have in the other cities and Cirebon, we have some we call socialisasi, and during that the socialisasi activities, we also put some information regarding the some highlight info, the brief info regarding the decision of the government that there is some aspect that has been considered by the government to not repatriate the ex-combatant, ISIS ex-combatant. Until now, the task force is still working and doing its duty. So perhaps in the future we will have some more better way to spread the information to the, so they will be fully aware the issue and can divide that which one is hoax or which is the truth one, thing like that.
Okay, thank you for the question and response, sir. They have a question again. I mean, like 2 questions more. The question from the Gabriel Gulo from the group number 6, right? Maybe you can also read in the below of the chat. It's regarding that maybe why the government is always limited the children to be have safe in the 10 years old. Because we're recalling about having the law of the children, the definition of the children or anak, it must be concluded in the 80 years old. But why the government is always only repatriate the people is under 10 years old? This is the first question. And the second question is from the Dian Konita from the group number 5. I'd like to ask question, if there is a family such as mother, father, and child too, what if the parents or father and mother change the citizenship? The child automatically lose Indonesian citizenship status or not? That the 2 question. Maybe we will have answer. You might have the floor, sir. Mr. Maki Muhammad?
Yes, yes.
You have a time to answer it.
The definition of children in the Bill of Child Protection, children is under 18 years. But there is some consideration on the security aspect, and then if that under 10 years old, the kids perhaps not just like if we repatriate older, like 18 years old, so there is some possibility that the children has the kids have been brainwashed. So the so we decide until now still an elaborate, and the government decided to elaborate the plan of repatriation children under 10 years old is to reduce the like to reduce the risk to reduce the risk the kids, and then has been repatriated in Indonesia, so they still like it is easier to be de-radicalized or something like that. Yeah. And then I think there's Pak Andika is already in. I think perhaps in Pak Andika session, Pak Andika will elaborate more, and he's more than able to explain. And the second question is the citizenship, I think, right?
Yes, correct.
In the citizenship, we have to refer to the bill number 6, year 2011, regarding the immigration. Yeah, hello.
Yes. Hello, sir. Well, maybe I will to reply the question for the last question. The last question is regarding about if family is joined in ISIS and then they declare to join an ISIS or support to be the supporter or the sympathizer. So, what is the matter the status of the children if the parents, I mean like the mom and dad, to be the sympathizer of the ISIS? So, what the consequences about that? It is the last question for your term. Okay, well, we're waiting, so maybe until now that we have so many fruitful questions and information regarding about the definition of the terrorism and also the policy that may be established by Minister of Foreign Affairs to dissolve about the solution or dissolve the conflict itself. While the waiting about the Mr. Muhammad Maki join with us again, so maybe prepare for yourself that after this we maybe have interesting discussion with the Mr. Second Speaker. So you still stay tuned there, and we're waiting for another response from the Mr. Muhammad Maki. I'm sorry, sir. With all due respect, Mr. Muhammad Maki, are you still there? Yeah, yeah. Because this is weekend, so the signal is very crowded because people using about half the internet to just speak each other, and also because to communicate each other. So no need to worry about that. Well, maybe I will give regarding about this discussion today. Mr. Maki is already delivered the point, not only regarding about the policy of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also from the condition if this case that maybe if the family they're going to abort or exodus and leaving the Indonesia to join with ISIS, so what's the consequences if the parents is declared with this as long as I research, because I'm also research with this condition, they have two options. The first, they all lost about their citizenship because joining ISIS is regarding about have international treatment and also conclude as from the terrorism. And the second point, maybe, or the answer, maybe in the chat, if only maybe less than the age or the age is less than 10 years old, maybe they still have a status to repatriate or back to the country as the status of Indonesian citizenship. But the parents maybe it depend on the status or it depend about the crime that qualified. Maybe I think this is the question from the last question. I'm helping the Mr. Maki to deliver answer the question. So maybe because we have so many time, we don't have any. We have only have limited time. So maybe I will be back or I giving back the time to the Mr. Master of Ceremony. Due that we also waiting the Mr. Maki to give some appreciation or the token of appreciation. I think I declare that the first sessions for the first speaker, I think it's very interesting, and I declare the close. So I will giving back the time to the Mr. Master of Ceremony from the right time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pulung, and thank you, Mr. Muhammad Maki Nahari. And now it's the time for us to give the token of appreciation to our first be given by Faisal Akbar. To Faisal Akbar and Mr. Maki Nahari, you may proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maki Nahari. Terdengar gak suara Randi?
Terdengar, Chow.
Oke, ini hanya simbolis dari kami nanti untuk yang sertifikat aslinya dikirimkan melalui kantor setempat. Terima kasih, Mr. Makari.
Okay, and thank you to Faisal Akbar. And now it's the time to move to our second speaker. And I'll give the time back to our moderator, to Mr. Pulung.
Yes. On behalf committee, now the section for the second session is open. As a moderator today, maybe I'm still leading this discussion. For this topic, for this discussion, I think they have also interesting topic with the topic repatriation of Indonesian citizen status from the former ISIS members. Will be delivered from Bapak Andika Krisna Yudanto, the Deputy of the International Relation from the BNPT. Okay. Before I start about giving the time or giving the forum for the Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, maybe allow me to just read about half the curriculum vitae and introduce our second speaker in the brief line. Our second speaker, the name is Andika Krisna Yudanto. The current position is like the Deputy of International Cooperation for the National Counter-Terrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia. And work experience, yes, he's a deputy or director of the Political Security Treaties, a Directorate Political Security and Territorial Treaties, Director General of the Treaty Affairs in MOFA from the 2013 until 2017. And also, he's also director of the regional or multilateral cooperation and in the director of regional and multilateral National Counter-Terrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia from 2017 until 2019. I think that's the CV of from the second speaker. And before I give the forum, I just like asking from the participant, from the proactively asking the question, and maybe you can ask the question from the chat or Q&A, and after that, maybe I will give you the time after giving from the speaker to answer your question. Okay, without further ado, for the Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, the time is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pa, and I would like to firstly thank ALSA English Discussion for inviting me to talk about the issue of repatriation of Indonesian nationals that have been assumed to be associated with ISIS. There are 4 topics, and if to share screen on this. So, and thank you again to the committee for inviting me to speak on the repatriation of Indonesian citizens, status for former ISIS members. I would like to take this opportunity also to briefly highlight the PowerPoint the presentation that I have for you. One is there's a request to understand about the meaning of terrorism. 2 is how we are able to prevent terrorism through de-radicalization. I think the 3rd is that with regard to having what is the current status of terrorism in Indonesia and globally. And 4th, I think, is with regard what is the solution to Indonesian citizens that are members of the ISIS as a terrorist organization now. I was asked to speak in Bahasa or English, but I think I'll take English because the first speaker spoke in English, in Bahasa Indonesia, and also a bit in English as well. Pengertian tentang terrorism. So this is the definition. Internationally, there is no definition on terrorism. In particular, there is no definition on what constitutes what is international terrorism. There has been since 1996 an establishment of an ad hoc committee on terrorism that has been there since 1996 and managed to come up with a agreed definition on terrorism. But as is articulated in Article 2 of the draft convention, on the draft comprehensive convention on international terrorism, so far they've got down to identifying what qualifies as terrorism. First, it's someone or a person that commits an offense and it perpetrates unlawfully and intentionally the death or serious bodily injury to any person. Second, there's a serious damage to a public or private property. So property, places, facilities, or systems that would incur to amount a major economic loss. And then it is also aimed at intimidating a population or to compel a government or an international government from doing something or not to do anything. So these are the three, or the three means of terrorism that can be agreed by the international community, but they have not come up with a single definition on what terrorism is. So these are just only the qualifiers. What is considered as terrorism? And you can see it's death, or there is serious damage or damage to property. There is an economic loss. It is to aim at intimidating a population or to compel a government to do something, or an international to do something, or not to do anything. So this is what most countries can agree on, but they have not yet agreed to a single definition on terrorism. Now, the next thing, what they have managed to do is actually define terrorism in treaties that are relevant, and they would use these definitions that I have mentioned that have been discussed since 1996 at the international level, and that the closest one that would define terrorism is the one that we have, which Indonesia has also ratified, which is the International Convention for the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism. So that's built into the definition of Article 2.1b, and that is to any other act intended to cause serious death or serious bodily injury to civilians or to any other persons not taking an active part in the hostilities in a situation of armed conflict when the purpose of such act by its nature or context is to intimidate a population or to compel a government or an international organization to do or to abstain from doing any act. The same thing can be seen if we are looking into, for example, the EU's framework decision on combating terrorism of 2002, which also mentions the same thing, that terrorism causes, it's a criminal act which causes death, there is property damage, it is to compel a government or an international organization, or it is aimed at economic loss to a certain country, and so these are the things that is coming up as a definition of terrorism. But yet, internationally, there is no definition, and I think, and surprisingly, Indonesia has defined what terrorism is. And not only has Indonesia defined what the aims of terrorism is, but it also defines what are the motives of terrorism. So again, it's the same thing as what is built into the draft International Convention on Terrorism, but Indonesia managed to compromise, in particular through the parliament, on the motives of what constitutes terrorism, and that is ideological, political, and also a threat to security, which is ideologi politik atau gangguan keamanan. So these are the aims, or this is what constitutes the motive. Now, in the international sphere, the motive cannot yet be agreed between countries, because if you say it's political, then, for example, for some countries, the Palestinian Liberal Organization is perceived as a terrorist. For us, in particular, for example, like Indonesia, we believe they are our heroes. So again, this is where at the international level, there is no compromise yet of a single definition on terrorism, because internationally it's hard to identify what motivates terrorism. And motivation then again becomes political, ideological, and also a threat to but this is something that has not been resolved at the international level. Now, I was also asked, and that is a little bit about what the definition of terrorism is. Now, there was a question how we can prevent terrorism. Actually, our law number 5 of 2018, which is a revised law on terrorism, actually does have a chapter on prevention. It is what is quite forward-looking about this particular law is that the acts of prevention is an obligation for the government. Another thing is that when you are conducting interventions related to prevention, you should uphold the principles of human rights and also uphold the principles of kehati-hatian, or I think that would mean that any acts that you do, you should consider how the society will take part in your program. So the principle of kehati-hatian. I think that's the principle of being careful. Now, there are 3 important interventions with regard to prevention, and we have to read this in a very holistic manner. One, it's kesiapsiagaan nasional, or I would mention it to be called national preparedness. Second is counter-radicalization or Counter-Radicalization, and third is de-radicalization. Now, these 3 concepts are different from each other, and that is why it was mandated through law number 5 of 2008 to come up with a governmental regulation that would stipulate the importance of those 3, namely national preparedness, counter-radicalization, and de-radicalization, And what's ever more important about work of prevention is not only the work of the government, such as the ministries, the agencies, but it also should involve the society, such as the academics, practitioners, uh, religious leaders, society leaders, uh, uh, as the private organizations as well. Should be coordinated by the National Counter-Terrorism Agency or BNPT. So this was why the mandate of prevention became very important for Indonesia, because it was reflected in our legislation. One on our laws on counterterrorism, the other one was a governmental regulation of number 77 of 2019. Again, this is why it's important to understand these three features related to prevention. Kesiapsiagaan Nasional, it focuses on how to anticipate any acts that might constitute acts of terrorism before it actually happens. So again, this is an important element. Counter-radicalization focuses on the individual or group of people that may be potentialized to become violent extremists, or in our term, it's in the law, it's termed as radical terrorism. And then de-radicalization. Now, the term de-radicalization is not for people that is not yet identified as a terrorist, or they are potentially to become influenced by radical terrorism. But it is people that have been influenced by radical terrorism. So that is why, if you're looking at what the de-radicalization is, it's to menghilangkan, or diminish, as well as to decrease and overturn the idea of radical terrorism into what is normal again. So again, if you want to say it in very short term, de-radicalization is coined as brainwashing. So these are the features of the three elements: Kesiapsiagaan Nasional, counter-radicalization, and de-radicalization. If you're looking at national preparedness, you're talking about how to empower the society, or pemberdayaan masyarakat. You're talking about as well about how you can improve the capacity of your state apparatus, your law enforcement officials actually. And then you're talking about protecting and also to enhance the facilities protection from terrorism. It also talks about how there is a need to develop various studies on terrorism, and it also talks about mapping out areas that we consider as being influenced by terrorism or violent extremism. Now, counter-radicalization comes into three programs: one, counter-narratives; two, counter-propaganda; and three, counter-ideology, which is almost the same but has different features. Now, de-radicalization, as I've mentioned, is focused on people that have been influenced by radical terrorism or violent extremism, which is the suspects. Those, I think, tersangka and terdakwa is almost the same as suspects in English. Terpidana is those who have been prosecuted. Narapidana are those that are inmates in various correctional facilities. And then also mantan napiter is those who have finished their term of serving their sentence in a correctional facility. And I think one that is very vague is that it's people or kelompok orang or a certain group of people that have been influenced by the radical terrorism issue. So again, there are different ways and means of intervening to these individuals that have been influenced by terrorism. If it's A, B, C, and D, from tersangka, terdakwa, terpidana, narapidana, then you have the identification process. you have the phase that's related to rehabilitation, re-education, and also social reintegration. So when you're looking into the points of E and F, then you're looking into pembinaan wawasan kebangsaan, pembinaan wawasan keagamaan, and also kewirausahaan. It's very hard for me to translate those words in English, but I think you know what I mean by those sort of intervention when it comes to mantan napiter and also people that have been influenced or terpapar paham radical terrorism. So again, if you're looking at F, this is something that you may put an eye on because this may relate to people of Indonesian citizenship that is in Syria and Iraq at the moment, and they have been identified as those people. So again, they may become those person you consider as orang atau kelompok orang yang sudah terpapar paham radikal terrorism. So this was this is the basic understanding of what is in the governmental regulation of 77 of 2019. Furthermore, now the landscape of ISIS at the moment, if you're looking at ISIS, the Islamic State, it came about in 2012, I believe, and somehow they've become a very strong proponent in Syria and Iraq. They're operating territories Iraq and Syria, and they have various group of sympathizers surrounding the whole world. One of them is if you're looking at the Marawi incident in the Philippines, where you saw that, for example, the Maute group was also affiliated to ISIS. So, but now ISIS has lost its territory since March 2019, and its leader Baghdadi was killed in October 2019, and this is the and that is why right now we're facing the problem of various nationals that are in Syria and Iraq because of the loss of ISIS in Syria and Iraq. Now, what about Indonesia? The same thing with Indonesia. We have major terrorist organizations that is influenced by or affiliated to ISIS. One of them is JAD, Jamaah Ansarul Daulah, and also the Ansarul Khilafah. Another one, if you're looking into and who is the dominant terror group that has been terrorizing Indonesia since in 2018 to 2019, is also Jamaah Ansarul Daulah. This is, you can see it from the examples that we have, the Surabaya bombing, the bomb that was detonated in Sibolga, Medan, also the bomb that was detonated in Kartasura, and also the acts of stabbing the coordinating minister for political security and law was also conducted by someone that is affiliated with the JAD. And also the bomb in Solo, in Jolo, Philippines, was actually inspired by Indonesians, inspired by ISIS itself. Now, and I will come back to that because there was a question earlier about who is whether there are Indonesian returnees or those that have been deported committing acts of terrorism in Indonesia. Yes, and if you're looking at the bombing in Jolo, Philippines, that was not a returnee, who's someone that have an Indonesian who have been deported from Turkey actually, and it's a husband and wife. So they committed acts of terrorism, but they have not reached, for example, Syria and Iraq. So again, if they are considered returnees, no, they are not returnees, but they are considered as what we call them as frustrated foreign travelers. Another one that is coming up with regard to ISIS is that there is a new center. It is not located in Syria and Iraq, but they call it the Khorasan chapter of the Islamic State, which is in Afghanistan. So we have also witnessed some movements, not big movement, but some movements of Indonesians that want to travel to Afghanistan in the fight and in joining the Khorasan chapter of the Islamic State in Khorasan in Afghanistan. So this is something that is the one of the issues of why there is ISIS. Now, the problems that are related to foreign terrorist fighters, if you're looking at the data coming from the Sufan Center, which looks into terrorism in particular, they conduct studies on that. So there is around 30,000 to 42,000 individuals joining ISIS in Syria and Iraq, mostly in Syria, from 120 countries, originating from 120 countries. If you're looking at the latest report last year by the Secretary General of the United Nations, after the loss of, after the fall of ISIS, one camp, for example, Ahol, contains around 70,000 people of internally displaced people. 24,000 to 30,000 are actually foreigners. So this is where we believe that many Indonesians are also located in this particular refugee camp in Al-Hol in Syria. And that's in the northeast part of Syria, which is not being controlled by the current government in Damascus, but it's being controlled by the Kurdish faction in Syria. If you're looking at what is the makeup of the foreign terrorist fighters in Syria, and this is a data coming in from Sufan Center. If you're looking at per region, from the ex-Soviet countries, there is around 8,000 individuals traveling. From Middle East, around 7,000. From Europe, around Western Europe in particular, 5,700. From the Maghrebi states, around 5,300. From South Asia and Southeast Asia, around 1,500 individuals, mostly from Indonesians, from Indonesia. From the Balkan states, around 800, and from North America, there's around 400. So, if you're looking at this data, actually, our region is not a region that sends a lot of foreign terrorist fighters. What's quite, if you're looking at the GDP, for example, of Indonesia, which is 80% Muslims, the numbers of Indonesians that are traveling is actually small compared to the Muslim population in Indonesia, which is around 200 million. So you have those countries, such as from these ex-Soviet countries, which stands around 8,000, and then Muslim or Islam is a minority religion in the Soviet Union. So again, if you're looking at it, the issue of violent extremism is not a big issue as we see in other countries, for example, in Soviet, in the Middle East, in Western Europe, too, for that matter. Now, the data that we have obtained from our task force on foreign terrorist fighters of BNPT, is we are thinking about the numbers of 1,500 Indonesians that have been implicated to be related with ISIS or have joined as foreign terrorist fighters. Ones that we consider that have not gone home is around 600 to 700. Those that we assume to have been deceased is around 100, and those that have been deported since 2014 actually is around 550. Now, those that they are deported, you need to understand whether they have been deported because they want to enter a conflict zone, or they have been deported because, or they have returned from a conflict zone. The data is still unclear for us. But again, if you're looking into how many have been prosecuted or how many is in the due process of law at the moment, the fighters around 80. Those who are presumed to have facilitated for the foreign travel is around 40. So again, there is a process of law that is being focused on these Indonesians that have returned through deportation, which is around 500. And that would constitute around 120 individuals that are going through the criminal justice system for being involved in foreign terrorism. So again, and that is the laws that we are using currently. It was the law that previous law that have been revised in 2018. So this is the global issue of foreign terrorist fighters. What is the problem for us? First, foreign terrorist fighter returnees, like Indonesia, people are afraid that they would constitute a threat to our peace and security at home. So this is why, if you're looking at the FTF returnees, there are so many countries that are not considering of returning their citizens, because those that have been considered as returnees might be battle and combat hardened. Then again, another one that is also a global problem is that foreign terrorist fighters relocators. So they are not your nationals, but they might be from other nations that could not be sent back to their country of origin. So they're traveling to another country, and this poses this might be dangerous for Indonesia because, for example, we have the regime bebas visa for 169 countries. So if you were looking into the makeup of foreign terrorist fighters, around 120 countries have joined as FTF. Then we also provide visa-free regime for 169 countries. So that could also be part of that problem as well. You would have foreign terrorist fighters relocators coming to Indonesia. Another one that is also, I think, an important part of the aspects of the problems that is related to foreign terrorist fighters is that it's a humanitarian issue. Unlike what happened before in Afghanistan with Al Qaeda, right now with ISIS, is that they've been they have involved women and children, and that would also include Indonesian citizens. And this is why when you're looking into Syria itself, there is three major refugee camps. You have one in Al-Hol, Al-Roj, and the other one in Ainisa. So the biggest one is in Al-Hol, which I've mentioned before, that has around 70,000 individuals, and they are mostly consisting of women and children. So when you're looking into this makeup, yes, we've also seen that, for example, adult women in particular, have been prone to become victims, but they are also, not only are they victims, but they are also considered as perpetrators. There is many evidence portraying that women have been very much involved and taking part as recruiters in ISIS. They've also been taking part as perpetrators. In Indonesia, you have also seen, for example, women committing acts of terrorism. For example, the bomb in Surabaya, that was also perpetrated by the wife of the terrorist perpetrator as well. The bomb that was detonated in Sibolga, that was perpetrated by the wife of a man that has been captured by the police. So again, we are seeing, although yes, there's a humanitarian problem related to women and children, but we are also seeing the fact that with ISIS, women are also considered as perpetrators. Now, there is a policy options that countries have been conducting throughout the world, and there is a policy option that is also being submitted by the Global Coalition on the defeat of Daesh. Again, I must remind you that for the purpose of Indonesian foreign policy, we are not a member, or we do not participate in the Global Coalition on the defeat of Daesh, for the reasons that Indonesia's foreign policy is free and do not join any sort of military coalition. And this Global Coalition on Daesh, on the defeat of Daesh, is actually a military coalition. Now, there is a number of policies that they have considered that countries are doing. One is the concept of doing nothing, which many countries are actually doing by not returning their citizens. Another one is that there is strong call that the Syrian regime in Damascus, in particular, that they should be prosecuting those foreign terrorist fighters that have joined. There's around 30 to 40,000. But then again, if you have fortress, I don't think the Syrian regime, and which is also having their own civil war at the moment, would be able to prosecute those foreign terrorist fighters, numbering the total of 30,000 to 40,000. So again, this is something that I think it would not be possible for to rely on the Syrian government to prosecute all the foreign terrorist fighters, and not only those foreign terrorist fighters, but you also need to consider that they will be prosecuting their own nationals who have partook in the armed conflict. Another one is setting up an ad hoc international criminal tribunal. This can be done through the Security Council. Setting up an ad hoc international criminal tribunal, or again enhancing the role of the International Criminal Court, could be a one that we can do. But then again, if you're looking at the Security Council, then the issue of Syria is actually very problematic because of two countries in the Security Council that might not agree on any sort of interventions in Syria. Maybe there is one coming in from the United States, but again, I think that would any calls for setting up an international criminal tribunal or sending it off to the International Criminal Court would be vetoed by one of the parties. It could be the U.S. or it could be the Russians vetoing because they have the power to do so within the Security Council. So these two options may not be feasible, although this could be undertaken, because if you're looking into ISIS, yes, ISIS is considered as a as a group or as a belligerent that is participating in a non-international armed conflict in Syria. So again, you could actually utilize these two mechanisms, having set up an ad hoc international criminal tribunal, or having the International Criminal Court look into of indicting or prosecuting those joining ISIS. The last one that I think the Global Coalition on the Defeat of Daesh is proposing is that countries should repatriate their nationals. Why? Because every country usually have laws that would provide them the competency to uphold their jurisdiction over crimes that is committed by their citizens abroad. So, for example, if I'm in Belgium, I'm an Indonesian citizen, I steal someone's car, then I could be held accountable through the laws in Indonesia because the national principles applies to me. So crimes that I commit abroad is also the jurisdiction of my own country. So if you're looking at the prosecution by the Syrian regime, you're talking about the principle of territory principles. But if you're talking about repatriation of nationals, then you're talking about the principles of nationality. So this is something that is being proposed out there, and this global coalition actually requests us to repatriate our nationals. So people should be answerable to the crimes they have committed abroad if they are their own nationals. Including if you're looking into our laws, actually our law does stipulate that. If you're looking at the preambular paragraph of law number 5 of 2020, it actually does say that there is a problem of international security concern with regard to nationals, including Indonesian nationals, traveling abroad and committing terrorism acts. So this is something that should be further considered. So this is an analysis of what countries have been doing in the past. Indonesia has certainly received people that are being from Turkey for being involved or wanting to be involved in acts of terrorism abroad. For example, if you're looking into Australia, they are using the easy cases of returning their nationals, in particular children, and those are children that they are considered orphans. There are countries that are also considering the medium cases. They're returning women and children. One case, for example, Germany only returned the children, but then the court in Germany educated that the government should return also the women because you cannot separate the mothers from their children. So this is one of the principles. And so it was decided that not only the children should be returned, but also the women or those women that are the mothers to the children. There's another case, for example, then there's also the hard cases, and this is usually related to women, children, not just women and children, but men. Usually what we know is that they are not located in camps. They are actually detained by, they're in a detention center held by the SDF of the Syrian Democratic Forces. That's a offshoot of a Kurdish movement in Syria. So they are detaining people that they consider to be quietly involved, to be apparently involved as fighters in Syria. And so, but again, for example, if you're looking at hard cases, there are cases in Europe. I think one I know, which is in French, actually is prosecuting a Syrian or I don't know, it's a Iraqi national who've been involved as ISIS, and they are being prosecuted in France because they have moved with their families as part of the refugee movement going in from Syria to Europe. So he was then brought to court and proven to have committed acts that would constitute crimes against humanity, including war crimes, because he was involved in ISIS. So again, this has been done in some countries. Again, the majority of countries are reluctant because of the security threat potential that these people might have towards the country. So again, these are just the some of how we analyze how countries are repatriating their citizens. There are also countries that has warranted quite a number of applauses, and that is Kazakhstan, who have returned their fighters, their women, and their children back to their countries, and it's quite a large number as well. So this, I think, is how countries are dealing with the issues of foreign fighter returnees and their associates. Again, thank you very much. So that's my full presentation. Thank you. So I hand it over back to the moderator.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Andika, for enlightening presentations, and you talk about many more and very comprehensively to discuss regarding about not only for so you divided into 4 big topic. To make a conclusion in here, you divided the big for the definition of the terrorism, and you just mentioned based on the 3 legal convention in 2009, and also from the guiding and relate by the national legal instrument in the legal instrument. And the second, you talk about how the prevention correlated with some like the policy that the government in Indonesia should do or should prevent about the latent of the terrorism itself. And the third point that you also mentioned regarding about so the leading information regarding about how the ISIS and Daesh until from the beginning until from they have lost the battle, and also the implication of the implication of the sympathizers and also maybe the supporter the ISIS when ISIS is in the after they lost the battle. And the fourth, you talk also regarding about the scenario regarding about what the country dealing do to prevent or also to resolve about the conflict. I mean, like for the terrorism of definition of the FTF, foreign terrorism fighters. And I think it's very enlightenment, and this is very fruitful information to us as for the law student to the point of the international terrorism and also national terrorism. Okay, now we are moving to the question and answer session in the session 2. Is there any question? Oh yeah. The one from the first term, and the first term that I will over to participant that will addressing question to Mr. Andika, and they have one question. Okay, maybe Mr. Andika, you can also but have to look in the chat. Okay, they are from the Rizky Riadenata. I'm sorry. Uh, they have is the deradicalization Asia, considering there are some former terrorists who return to terrorist act after completing the deradicalization program. Thank you. This is the first question. And the second question is from the Firsta Yuhanda from the group number 5. Uh, they have some like point of confirmation. If we go back to the definition of terrorism according to law number 5 2018, if someone has joined a terrorist organization but they haven't done anything according to what the law written before, can we consider them as a terrorist, or they need to do something that define them as a terrorist that attend to the law number 5 2018? I think this is from the first sessions, for the first term from the question answer. Maybe from the Mr. Andika, you have a floor to answer or respond to this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think those are very salient and important questions. They are, is always a question that has been asked to me on internet. There is another unit in BNPT that focuses on deradicalization program. So what we know is that for Indonesia, the position of the government is that we are quite effective in our deradicalization program. For BNPT, there is 2 deradicalization programs. One is inside prison and the other one is outside of prison. We have programs that's inside prison authorities. Again, if you're looking at the numbers, our president, I think 2 or 3 years ago, during the U.S. Arab Summit, have mentioned before that the number is very limited. Number of prisoners that terrorist inmates that became. So the number was around three individuals in 3 events. But again, this is something I think I've also heard there is a number of Indonesians, not Indonesian, I mean number of ex-terrorist convicts that committed terrorism as well. So again, I believe for myself that the deradicalization is on the right track. It's working to a certain extent, but it is a hard work. Because if you're looking at the definition of deradicalization itself, if I may say, it's hard because you have to change the mentality of a person who is a violent extremist to becoming a non-violent extremist. So this is how you change the view of a certain person. That's why I jokingly mention about deradicalization as a program of brainwashing. But again, for other countries, for example, they do not coin the term deradicalization. They actually coin the term disengage. So what you do is you disengage certain individuals from committing acts of violence. I mean, you cannot, or how they think about other people, other religion or whatnot, but what you try to do is to disengage them from committing violent acts. Again, this is something that many countries are. Whether or not it has established successes is something, again, they need to conduct further studies. So this is on deradicalization. But I would say, again, working in BNPT and knowing that, for example, the law does stipulate about deradicalization, I think what's most important is that it's not about the success rate of the deradicalization program, but again, for the government, you have to actually conduct the radicalization program because it's an obligation. It's written there in the law. So ini adalah kewajiban pemerintah radikalisasi. So I don't see legislation in place where they provide that obligation to the government in providing the radicalization program. So I think apart from other countries, Indonesia is above other countries in applying that sort of law and establishing that law as an obligation to government. And when we're conducting legislation, we have to also bear in mind the importance of human rights and also the principles of hati-hatian. So you cannot come with a program to a certain community and say, look, saya pengen mengerjakan program deradikalisasi di desa ini. That's almost impossible because you have to also bear in mind the principle of hati-hati. Kenapa desa saya dianggap teroris, saya nggak mau dong, atau dianggap radikal. So, prinsip kehati-hatian harus ditegakkan. And that is written in the law. And not many countries write that in their own law. So again, Indonesia is one of those top countries. The other question regards to, what was it, the definition?
Okay, I would like to reply to the second question, sir. Is regarding if someone have joined a terrorist organization on anything according to what the law has written before, terrorists, or they need to do something that may be affiliated with some like the element of the crime.
Actually, we have, if you're looking at law number 5 of 2018, and there's a previous law that was adopted, I think, in 2003, right? Look at Article 15. It looks into pumafakatan, where you. What I know is that I remember the presentation that I made on those that have returned and are undergoing the due process of law. Most of them are being indicted for melanggar pasal 15. So that's on pemufakatan for joining a terrorist organization. So that, by joining a terrorist organization, it is something. It means you're able to become, you're liable to be prosecuted. So that's the law. So we don't need to change the law as it is. It's there. It's written. It's the administrative law actually. And we don't need to define it. There are other articles that are new. It's Article 12A and 12B. I think that's what you're looking into. When you participate as a foreign terrorist fighters, joining a military 2018. So the question was whether or not if that Article 12A and 12B is retroactive. But if it's retroactive, it's easy for the law enforcement. All they use is 12B, but they're using Article 15, which is already there since 2003. So again, you can use it if you're joining a terrorist organization. The problem is you do not have actually the evidence of what each individual has been doing there in Syria and Iraq. There are cases now in Europe where they are not being prosecuted for breaking the. Actually, they are being prosecuted for breaking the laws that relates to war crimes or amounts of war crimes, and they are being prosecuted for crimes against humanity. Now, this is another issue. If you look in Indonesia, ada perbedaan antara undang-undang teroris, pengadilan HAM contohnya. Misalnya kejahatan kemanusiaan itu hanya nomor 20 tahun terorisme berbeda. Kejahatannya juga, penyidiknya pun juga berbeda. Kalau when you're talking about undang-undang terorisme, the investigator is Densus 88, Densus 88. Then when you're talking about kejahatan kemanusiaan atau pelanggaran HAM berat, penyidiknya adalah kejaksaan, or the Attorney General Office is the investigator. So this is a different thing. In Europe, this is not so much problem, but they're able to do it right now, where they have evidences of what certain individuals are doing, have had done in Syria. So a lot of them is being prosecuted for war crimes. A lot of them is also being prosecuted for against humanity. The evidence, I think there was a big case in the Netherlands or in Germany, I think it's in the Netherlands, where a woman was indicted because they had lost mobile phone, and in her mobile phone there was proof enough to say that she was actually committing war as pillaging, because apparently she stayed in a house that was someone else's house, and then ISIS won the territory, and then she lived in that house, which was not supposed to be hers in the first time. But because she was a member of ISIS, she was able to pillage the house, and so. But pillaging a house is an offense in the war crimes, and that's stipulated in the one of the international conventions. So again, it's a matter of proof. So what we actually have to do, Indonesians returned, is to see how much in the crimes, in conducting crimes in Syria. So this is something that we need to also work on. So whether or not terrorism again, no, I don't think we should. We have an laws already, legislation that I think would be able to serve justice in an effective manner.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Andika, for the response to the question. But maybe if I can follow up the question, Pak Andika, by your opinion, as expertise in the BNPT, especially council, which can prevent very well the radicalism and also the terrorism, both inside or outside in their territory.
Which country?
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yeah?
Indonesia.
Okay.
No, seriously, I think Indonesia should be able to be countries. It should play a leading role internationally and regionally. Why? Because apparently we have two large in the prevention sphere. We have two large mass Islamic organizations. We have the Nahdlatul Ulama. We have also the Muhammadiyah. And there are also two very large groups that is preaching modern Islam. So that is one of the fundamentals. We have a separate chapter on prevention. There is three various means of achieving prevention, from national preparedness to de-radicalization. So it's a very broad spectrum. You're not just talking about from the start of terrorism, but you're talking about what happens after a terrorism act through the de-radicalization program. So it is a very broad law that looks into prevention. There's the Counter-Terrorism Index. We are considered as medium countries impacted by terrorism. We did fall a few places in our ranks, but I think it's still manageable. For example, there's also the Global Peace Index. We are a country that's considered as high peace. So we are not countries located in Africa. We're not a country located in the Middle East, where we are prone from conflicts in the region. There is almost very limited conflict in Indonesia, in the region. For example, we do have a conflict south of Thailand, large to a certain amount. It does have an impact on Indonesia, but it is not as bad as countries that are located, for example, in Middle East, Africa, and for example, and also South Asia, I believe. So we're relatively in a place that's very peaceful. Terrorism, although it has transpired for some time, as a country, we've only had minimal impact, which we are considered as medium impact. The largest ones that back in 2002, and after this Bali bombing. But again, there hasn't been that large-scale events related to terrorism that's making us, as a country, being highly impacted by terrorism. And we're in a good position as compared to other countries. That would be should play that leadership role.
Okay, thank you very much for the response, sir. So now we're moving for half the second term question answer. They have two questions also. The first question is from Fatasha from the group number 5. She has a question: how long it will take the BNPT and the government need to handle the current deradicalization program, especially from the children who are victim of the ISIS? And the second question from the group number 6. Question is addressing from Mr. Aditya is: how can we, our country, make sure to be able to monitor them once they spend 5 years illegally training, then coming back to Indonesia? Do our laws still provide the effect that they join, and after that, in 5 years, they back to the country? So, what the consequences? I think that's the question, sir. Maybe I give you time to yours to answer or respond to the question. Thank you very much.
So these two questions are quite related. How long need to handle current de-radicalization program, especially for children who are victims of ISIS? Again, one thing that we should bear in mind when it comes to providing de-radicalization program or providing that rehabilitation and reintegration programs for those influenced or impacted by terrorism, particularly children, the term is that you have to one size fits all program. You cannot apply, for example, the measures that you are doing with an adult with children. So there's already something different. So if you're saying, okay, someone who joins a terrorist group, 5 years of jail, that's for adult, but that might not be possible for children. So the program would be different. So again, what we are doing here right now is that there is no one size fits all program, but you should take into consideration the needs of the individuals. So if it's children, if it's a boy 5 years old, or if it's a 7, you have a different sort of approach. But it would still be called a de-radicalization program, but the program you're doing should be different, so it should be tailored to the needs of the certain children, between whether they are boys or they are girls. Because when you're looking at them at the victims level, boys might be they are joining or they were told to carry guns during their time in Syria, but then the children, if it's girls, they might be victims of trafficking. That could be a possibility as well. So the programs couldn't be the same. But you can call it a de-radicalization program, but the method, the intervention, it's different. So it should be a tailor-made programs. So I can't say 2 years, 3 years program, 1 year. No, that's not possible. So for example, there is a program that is being run by the social ministry, Handayani, and it's really related to children that have problems, and they're also problems. They are also facing. So they have a program for 1 month, but they know that a program they can prolong the program to 2, 3, 4 months or whatnot. So again, each individual is different. Each individual should go through a tailor-made programs, be it an adult, children, women. Again, this should be tailor-made. So that's one. And I can't actually tell you how long the program would be, because that would be up to the individual progresses. And the second one is related to, there was a question about 5 years training programs. Okay. If you look at the law number 5 of 2018, if you go to the preamble or paragraph, actually, the law was made because of the problem and the recognition that we have problem of Indonesian citizens joining a foreign terrorist group abroad.
Is it fair to consider children terrorism?
So if you're looking at that, this particular law was to actually prevent people from traveling abroad, But if they had traveled abroad and they've committed acts of terrorism, they were able to be prosecuted back home. So this was the adopted the law in 2018, in June 2018. So my own understanding is, if I read the law does promote that. It promotes that there is a problem of Indonesian citizens joining a foreign terrorist fighter group or becoming foreign terrorist fighters abroad. And that's why you have you have revised articles in the law, in particular Article 12 and Article 12B, that prohibits joining a foreign terrorist organization or going abroad to commit military acts. So that is the law. That is the law of the land, and that is a positive law that we have right now. So we have Indonesians returning from a battlefield in an unjust loss or joining a foreign terrorist organization. Then I believe they should be held accountable when they come back to Indonesia. So those are the questions.
Okay, I think it's time. Maybe I declare that maybe in the section this section I close the question and answer. And on behalf of the committee, I'm saying thank you very much to the Bapak Andika to just like deliver about half the enlightening legal knowledge regarding about half the terrorism from the perspective of the BNPT itself. Now I beg the time to have Mr. Master of Ceremony for the next section. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto. And I'll give the time to Audio Fahrezi to give the appreciation to Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto. To Audio Fahrezi and Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. There was a last question, which I think is very. Thank you for the token of appreciation. And again, it's always been exciting to listen and have a discussion with our fellow English discussion group, which I think is very important. I'm very happy to be here and to be among very smart people. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, for delivering these presentations today. It's an honor to welcome you in these discussions today. Thank you.
Okay, and now let's move to our third speaker. I'll give the time back to our moderator, to Mr. Pulung. The time is yours.
Okay, now I've declared that the session 3 is open, and from the section 3, I think we know, last but not least, we will hear from the Professor of Criminal Law, our pride faculty, Professor Dr. Muladi. Yeah, because we know that Professor Dr. Muladi is very important and very central from the Faculty of Law. And also, before that, I giving the time or the floor to the Professor Dr. Muladi, I would like to allow me to just like read about half the curriculum vitae of for the third speaker. Our third first speaker, the name is Professor Dr. Haji Muladi SH. The current position is like the Professor of the Criminal Law at Universitas Diponegoro. And from the work experience, the first, he became Director of Universitas Diponegoro in the 1994 until the 1998. And also the Minister of the Justice Republic Indonesia in the 1998. And also Supreme Court Judge Republic of Indonesia from the 2000 until 2001. And then also he also have honor to be the governor of Delhi Hamnas 2005 and until 2011. Now from the third sessions, I will give the floor to Professor Dr. Haji Muladi SH. For Professor Dr. Haji Muladi SH, you may take floor. Thank you very much.
Kita mulai ya. Langsung nih.
Okay, Prof.
Ya. Terima kasih atas kesempatan ini. Saudara sekalian, para pembicara maupun para peserta seminar, saya akan berbicara campur-campur ya supaya bisa lebih jelas dan sebagainya. Campur-campur artinya ada bahasa Inggris, bahasa Indonesia dan sebagainya. Jadi persoalan repatriation atau repatriasi ini atau kembalinya para kombatan ISIS dari Timur Tengah ini sangat menarik perhatian secara nasional, ya. Jadi ISIS, ada yang bilang ISIL, ada yang DAESH dan sebagainya. Tapi sebelumnya izinkan saya mengkutip pendapat Dr. Alex Smith, ya. Dr. Alex Smith sangat terkenal, yaitu a research fellow of the International Center for Counter-Terrorism dari Den Haag, Belanda, atau disingkat ICCT, seorang Swiss-born Dutch scholar mengenai terorisme, kajian terorisme, dan sebelumnya pernah menjabat juga sebagai, katakanlah, Terrorism Prevention Branch of the United Nations. Jadi orang ini sangat terkenal sampai saat ini, juga aktif di University of Leiden. Dia mengatakan bahwa terrorism is the peacetime equivalent of war crimes. Ini suatu pernyataan yang menarik sekali. Terrorism is the peacetime equivalent of war crimes. Jadi menunjukkan bahwa terorisme itu sangat jahat karena dia tidak melakukan apa yang disebut sebagai screening terhadap korbannya, dan sifatnya random. Korban itu dikorbankan secara random, termasuk civilian atau siapa saja yang of terrorism ini, ya. Jadi ini suatu maka disebut seperti di war crimes itu juga suatu pelanggaran terhadap Geneva Convention tahun 49. Itu target-target dari kejahatan perang itu adalah samping melanggar Geneva Convention juga mentargetkan target-target sipil yang tidak berusaha dan sebagainya. Dan sekarang apa yang disebut sebagai war crimes itu diatur di dalam International Criminal Court 1998, ya, atau Statuta Roma, ya. Itu salah satu kejahatan di samping genocide, crimes against humanity, kemudian war crimes dan aggression. Lengkap sekali diatur di situ. Jadi kalau ingin mengetahui kenapa terorisme disebut sebagai equivalent of war crimes, itu dibaca dari pasal 8 dari Statuta Roma 98, Rome Statute of Criminal Law tentang ICC, International Criminal Court, tahun 1998, ya. Yang berlaku tidak perlu diratifikasi itu di semua negara harus memperlakukannya sebagai jus cogens, berlaku sebagai kewajiban. Lain dengan treaty-based crime yang harus ditandatangani dalam bentuk ratifikasi. Tapi kalau yang namanya ICC ini adalah berlaku untuk semua negara. Saudara sekalian, tanpa mengesampingkan banyaknya kasus terorisme yang lain yang banyak terjadi di Indonesia, perlu diinformasikan bahwa korban terorisme, the victim of terrorism masa lalu, yang berjatuhan setelah diterbitkannya Perpu nomor 1 tahun 2002, berkesempatan dan sedang saat ini memperjuangkan pemenuhan hak-haknya. Hak itu menurut UN Deklarasi Internasional, yaitu kompensasi, restitusi, compensation, restitution, akses to justice kepada saksi dan korban. Sehubungan dengan lahirnya Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2018 tentang perubahan Undang-Undang Nomor 15 2003 tentang penetapan atau Perpu Nomor 1 2002 tentang pemberantasan tindak pidana terorisme. Baru saja menjadi undang-undang 5 2002, dan kebetulan saya salah satu orang yang membicarakan itu di DPR. Sekarang sudah menjadi undang-undang, yaitu Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2010 2018, yang tadi oleh rekan dari BNPT diuraikan pencegahan dan sebagainya, itu berasal dari situ. Yang kemudian disusul dengan terbitnya PP Nomor 35 Tahun 2020 yang nomor 7 2013 tentang pemberian kompensasi, restitusi, dan bantuan kepada saksi dan korban. Ya. Kasus-kasus tersebut antara lain kasus bom Bali 1-2, kasus Hotel W Marriott, terorisme Jalan Tamrin, kemudian Surabaya, peristiwa Sibulga, peristiwa di Polres Tabes Medan, dan lain-lain. Kita tidak bisa membayangkan penderitaan para korban yang luar biasa, baik jiwa, fisik, mental, finansial, psikis, telah meningkatkan kutukan. Jadi people condemnation terhadap terorisme di Indonesia itu sangat besar, begitu juga kewaspadaan nasional tadi rekan-rekan dari BNPT, masyarakat terhadap segala hal yang berbau terorisme, termasuk repatriasi dari ISIS dari Timur Tengah ini. Mereka sangat peka terhadap mahasiswa, kita lakukannya secara hati-hati, termasuk kebijakan repatriasi kombatan ISIS. Repatriasi adalah kembalinya seseorang kepada negaranya. Ya. Perlu saya uraikan, saya menyebut combatant atau sering disebut combatant. Kalau disebut combatant itu seolah-olah sah, peserta perang yang sah atau belligerent. Ya. Tapi combatant ISIS itu dari hukum internasional disebut illegal combatant. Illegal combatant, kombatan yang tidak sah, yang sama sekali tidak menghormati apa yang disebut jus ad bellum. Jus ad bellum itu adalah hukum yang menentukan alasan-alasan sah negara untuk berperang, yang dibenarkan oleh artikel 51 dari UN Charter, yaitu agresi dan bela diri, dan juga tidak taat yang namanya jus and bello. Jadi ada jus ad bellum, yang namanya just war itu jus and bellum, dan jus and bello, yang disebut sebagai mengatur pedoman bagaimana perang dilakukan untuk melindungi korban konflik bersenjata sesuai hukum humaniter internasional, the laws of armed conflicts. Ini mereka disebut illegal, sama sekali tidak menghormati. Yang saya sebut indiscriminate target tadi yang dilakukan oleh teroris itu adalah menyebabkan dia disebut illegal combatant, sama sekali tidak menghormati hukum internasional, hukum perang. Ada persyaratan-persyaratan yang harus dilakukan kalau ada perang yang sah, ada deklarasi perang dan sebagainya. Tapi sudah didirikan pada tahun 14 sampai hancurnya ISIS di Timur Tengah, itu mereka melakukan tindakan seenaknya sendiri. Maka UN Security Council membentuk pasukan koalisi untuk menghancurkan mereka. Ya. Tantangan untuk dapat mengambil sikap rasional dan objektif dalam menghadapi pro kontra terhadap dilema pilihan, ya, pilihan yang sulit, setuju atau tidak setuju terhadap kemungkinan repatriasi kurang lebih 600 WNI, mungkin lebih ex-combatant, illegal combatant saya katakan. Dan sebelumnya sebelumnya kita harus memahami soul and spirit atau jiwa dan semangat. Ya. Di setiap undang-undang itu ada soul and spirit yang harus dipahami dulu kalau kita mau membahas apa yang disebut sebagai batang tubuhnya. Soul and spirit, instrumen hukum baik nasional maupun internasional, serta aspirasi expertise, aspiration atau aspirasi kebakaran yang katakanlah terkait dengan bobot pencelaan atau the weight of reprobation and condemnation terhadap tindak pidana terorisme dan ISIS. Dilema atau pilihan yang sulit ini terjadi karena berkaitan dengan nilai-nilai kemanusiaan. Itu sebagai negara Pancasila kita tetap menghormati kemanfaatan. Nah, ini kemanfaatan ini perlu ditanda tanya, keadilan dan HAM, human rights. Untuk itu perlu perhatian akan hal-hal seperti itu. Ini yang saya katakan soul and spirit, kenapa kita sangat concern terhadap pembahasan tentang masalah repatriasi ini. Pertama, persoalan repatriasi tersebut kebetulan muncul bersamaan dengan diundangkannya Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2018 tentang perubahan Perpu 1 2002 tentang pemberantasan tindak pidana terorisme, ya, yang menyangkut bom Bali dulu, ya, menjadi undang-undang. Sekarang undang-undangnya namanya Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2000. Dengan pertimbangan untuk memberikan landasan hukum yang lebih kukuh guna menjamin perlindungan dan kepastian hukum dalam pemberantasan tindak pidana terorisme. Kepastian hukum dalam pidana terorisme serta untuk memenuhi kebutuhan dan perkembangan hukum dalam masyarakat. Jadi akan saya sampaikan konsiderasinya itu apa ya? Kenapa terorisme itu begitu sangat dicela, dikutuk katakanlah. Dari sisi Indonesian side, ya. Satu, tindak pidana terorisme bagi Indonesia merupakan kejahatan serius yang membahayakan ideologi negara, keamanan negara, kedaulatan negara, nilai kemanusiaan, dan katakanlah berbagai aspek kehidupan bermasyarakat, berbangsa dan bernegara, serta bersifat lintas negara, transnasional, terorganisasi, dan mempunyai jaringan luas serta pemberantasannya perlu dilakukan secara khusus, terencana, terarah, terpadu, dan berkesinambungan berdasarkan Pancasila dan Budi Pekerti. Jadi betapa dahsyatnya terorisme bagi rakyat Indonesia itu apa yang terungkap dalam konsideran Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2013. Kemudian dalam konsideran itu juga diungkapkan adanya keterlibatan orang atau kelompok orang, ini yang saya katakan ISIS tadi, serta keterlibatan warga negara Indonesia dalam organisasi di dalam dan atau luar negeri yang bermaksud melakukan permufakatan jahat, ya, yang mengarah pada tindak pidana terorisme, berpotensi mengancam keamanan dan kesejahteraan masyarakat, bangsa dan negara, serta perdamaian dunia. Jadi itu yang dilakukan oleh orang-orang ISIS itu. Kemudian tindak pidana terorisme dilakukan dengan menggunakan kekerasan atau ancaman kekerasan yang menimbulkan suasana teror, ya, yang menimbulkan rasa takut yang berskala luas, dengan target yang dikatakan sebagai melanggar hukum perang tadi, target aparat yang dijadikan target terorisme itu adalah saat ini terbukti dalam kasus-kasus yang terjadi itu aparat-aparat negara, penduduk sipil secara acak atau secara random, indiscriminate target atau tidak terseleksi, serta objek vital yang strategis, lingkungan hidup dan fasilitas publik atau fasilitas internasional, dan cenderung tumbuh menjadi bahaya simetrik. Jadi sebenarnya terorisme secara teoretik itu adalah disebut asymmetric threat yang dilakukan oleh non-state actor. Tapi dengan kenyataan-kenyataan yang terjadi itu, dia menjadi semacam non-state actor itu sebagai asymmetric threat, ya, bahaya pada negara. Kemudian yang keempat, dalam konsideran itu dikatakan tindak pidana terorisme bersifat transnasional in nature, terorganisasi, bersifat clandestine. Clandestine itu yang didukung oleh dilakukan diam-diam, yang didukung oleh teknologi modern, sehingga memerlukan kerjasama internasional untuk menanggulangannya. Penanggulangannya begitu tidak mudah. Kemudian yang kelima, terorisme adalah perbuatan yang menggunakan kekerasan dengan motif ideologi politik atau gangguan keamanan. Ini pertimbangan yang ini mengalami perdebatan yang keras di parlemen, karena kita tidak boleh memberikan cek kosong pada aparat penegak hukum bahwa terorisme itu harus punya ideologi dan politik, ya. Ide politik yang sangat terbatas, kekerasan gitu. Tapi kemudian ditambahkan gangguan keamanan. Kalau gangguan keamanan itu pertimbangan yang sangat luas. Jadi mereka bisa berbuat, tapi ada dasar hukumnya, kukuh dari kukuh. Tidak hanya motif ideologi politik, tapi ada motif gangguan keamanan. Dan berkaitan dengan tujuan negara yang antara lain, kalau kita melihat nation goals itu ada di dalam preambel dari konstitusi kita, bahwa salah satu tujuan nasional itu adalah melindungi segenap bangsa Indonesia dan tumpah darah Indonesia, termasuk korban tindak pidana terorisme. Ini ada di dalam konstitusi. Jadi ini pertimbangan yang sangat penting, kepentingan nasional ini. Yang selanjutnya menjaga keseimbangan antara kebutuhan penegakan hukum. Kita sangat katakanlah ingin menegakkan hukum secara total, katakanlah. Tapi di samping itu juga ada perlindungan HAM dan kondisi sosial politik Indonesia juga kita pertimbangkan. Jadi ada satu balance equilibrium antara law enforcement dengan human rights compliance, katakanlah. Hal-hal baru yang terkait dengan topik seminar ini dan juga dengan undang-undang baru itu, sekarang itu ada kriminalisasi baru menjadikan sebagai tindak pidana terhadap setiap orang yang dengan sengaja mengikuti pelatihan militer, pelatihan paramiliter, atau pelatihan lain, baik di dalam negeri maupun di luar negeri, dengan maksud melakukan tindak pidana terorisme. Itu yang dilakukan oleh orang-orang ISIS dan atau ikut berperang di luar negeri untuk tindak pidana terorisme. Jadi landasan yang kuat nanti untuk menuntut mereka yang terlibat ini, apakah diserahkan pada pemerintah Syria atau Irak, atau diserahkan pada tribunal internasional yang dibentuk Dewan Keamanan PBB, atau kita adili. Kalau kita adili itu sangat riskan, katakanlah. Bisa kalau memang adili berdasarkan pasal ini, ya, berkaitan dengan ini. Yang kedua, penjatuhan pidana tambahan. Jadi ada pidana tambahan yang bisa dijatuhkan di dalam pelaku tindak pidana terorisme yang berada di luar negeri seperti ISIS, berupa pencabutan hak untuk memiliki paspor dalam jangka waktu tertentu, 5 tahun. Kemudian Kemudian untuk mengoptimalkan pemberantasan tindak pidana terorisme, aspek pencegahan secara simultan tadi diuraikan oleh teman dari BNPT, pencegahan secara simultan, terencana dan terpadu perlu dikedepankan untuk meminimalisasi terjadinya terorisme dengan melibatkan kementerian atau lembaga terkait serta seluruh komponen bangsa melalui upaya kesiapsiagaan nasional, kontra-radikalisasi terhadap orang yang potensial tercemar, katakan, dan deradikalisasi untuk mereka yang sudah tercemar, yang dikoordinasikan oleh BNPT yang merupakan fasilitator dari Presiden dalam menentukan kebijakan nasional langsung di bawah Presiden mengenai terorisme ini. Ya. Jadi dari pertimbangan-pertimbangan itu kita bisa melihat apa sih manfaatnya mau menyetujui pengembalian orang-orang itu, katakanlah. Begitu dahsyatnya terorisme, apalagi sudah berskala transnasional itu seperti itu. Dan mereka lebih solider terhadap hal yang negatif, ya, mengorbankan segala itu pergi ke Timur Tengah, ya, dalam rangka ISIS tadi. Kemudian yang kedua, spirit yang ensul tadi adalah sehubungan resolusi United Nations Security Council atau Dewan Keamanan PBB nomor 2170 tahun 2014 yang mengenakan pembekuan aset, larangan bepergian ban, ya, transportation ban, dan embargo senjata terhadap 6 orang yang terkait dengan Al-Qaeda, ISIS dan Al-Nusrah. Al-Nusrah itu cabang dari ISIS, Al-Nusrah Front namanya. Mereka itu dicatat di UNSC karena participating in the financing, planning, facilitating, preparing, or perpetrating of acts of activities, condemning systematic and widespread abuses of human rights and international humanitarian law, including indiscriminate killing of civilians by terrorist groups, particularly the Islamic State and the Al-Nusra Front. The resolution expressed concern that parts of the Iraq and Syria are under control of these groups and placed 6 individuals affiliated with other groups on UNSC Al-Qaeda sanction list. Yeah. The resolution underlined the primary responsibility of United Nations member states seluruhnya to protect civilian population on their territories. Itu dalam resolusi 2170. Kemudian ada resolusi United Nations Security Council 2249/2015 on terrorist attack perpetrated by ISIL, also known as the Daesh, 20 November 2015, yang menggambarkan bahwa terorisme dalam segala bentuk dan manifestasinya merupakan kejahatan sangat berat, very serious crime, yang mengancam perdamaian dan keamanan Islam, dan merupakan tindakan kriminal yang tidak dapat dibenarkan, terlepas dari motif, kapan, dan oleh siapa dilakukan. ISIS atau Daesh telah membahayakan perdamaian dan keamanan internasional, dan harus diperang kewajiban di bawah hukum internasional, khususnya HAM internasional, komunitas, serta piagam PBB Charter dan 45. Anggota-anggota PBB harus mengintensifkan usaha untuk membendung, menghentikan pelakunya ke Irak dan Syria, dan mencegah dan menekan pembiayaan terorisme. Jadi ini suatu hal yang luar biasa, katakanlah. Jadi kalau kita bicara tentang UNSC ini, lembaga yang sangat powerful PBB, merupakan satu apa yang disebut yang bertindak atas dasar Chapter 7 United Nations Charter yang menegaskan kewenangan Dewan Keamanan PBB untuk memelihara perdamaian, kemudian Dewan Keamanan PBB berwenang untuk menekan keberadaan, ancaman, dan pelanggaran serta mengambil tindakan untuk mengembalikan perdamaian dan keamanan internasional, baik yang bersifat militer maupun militer. Jadi UNSC itu adalah salah satu dari 6 prinsip organ pokok PBB yang fungsinya untuk menjamin perdamaian dan keamanan dunia, termasuk katakanlah yang sudah kita kenal saat ini membentuk peacekeeping operation, katakanlah perdamaian menerapkan Indonesia berperanan, menerapkan sanksi internasional termasuk tindakan militer, R2P, Response to Protect, merekomendasikan anggota baru PBB kepada General Assembly, Sidang Umum PBB, atas dasar UN Charter. UNSC adalah satu-satunya UN body yang resolusinya mengikat negara anggota PBB. Jadi ini suatu hal yang sangat takut itu, bahkan dia bisa membentuk pengadilan ad hoc internasional, ya, seperti di Yugoslavia dan Rwanda dan sebagainya. Itu lain dengan antara negara. Tapi kalau pengadilan ad hoc seperti Rwanda dan Yugoslavia itu dibentuk atas Dewan Keamanan PBB. Very powerful. Jadi sangat ditakuti. Penyerangan terhadap Irak, kemudian Libya, kemudian Yugoslavia dan sebagainya itu disponsori oleh pasukan koalisi yang mendapat mandat dari United Nations Security Council. Kemudian yang ketiga, saudara sekalian, karakter terorisme yang bersifat transnasional, sering disebut sebagai transnational in nature, itu memang Indonesia katakanlah baru muncul mengacu pada standar yang dirumuskan dalam artikel 3 ayat 2 Palermo Convention 2000, Palermo Convention 2000 tentang Transnational Organized Crime. Satu dilakukan di lebih dari satu negara. Kejahatan itu dilakukan di lebih dari satu negara. Dilakukan di satu negara, tetapi suatu bagian substansialnya dari persiapan, perencanaan atau kendali terjadi di negara lain. Kemudian ketika dilakukan di suatu negara, tetapi melibatkan suatu kelompok kriminal terorganisasi yang beroperasi di lebih dari satu negara, atau dilakukan di satu negara tetapi mempunyai impact substansial di negara lain. Jadi kalau ini seperti ini, maka baru tindak pidana itu disebut sebagai transnational in nature. Tapi ada satu masalah yang mempersoalkan hubungan transnational organized crime itu dengan terorisme. Tapi sekarang sudah tidak ada masalah. Kalau kita bicara tentang TOC atau transnational organized crime itu selalu ada profit atau financial profit oriented. Padahal terorisme itu kan motifnya bicara politik, ideologis atau keamanan. Tapi dalam beberapa kejadian antara lain pemboman Madrid tahun 2004, itu mereka juga sudah berburu financial profit atau financial orientation, not its ideology. Jadi memang bukan ideologi yang dikejar, tapi dia mencari profit untuk membiayai terorisme. Jadi, terorisme itu sudah bisa dikatakan sebagai transnational organized crime, ya. Walaupun intinya itu tidak financial profit orientation, tapi fakta-fakta terakhir mereka terlibat dalam pergerakan untuk mencari dana untuk teror. Yang keempat, ada seorang yang namanya Hardim Gembir 2012, seorang analis tentang Counter-Terrorism pada Institute for SW Washington, menyatakan memprediksi bahwa setelah tewasnya pimpinan ISIS Abu Bakar al-Baghdadi di Irak dan Suriah, ISIS dengan pimpinan baru Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi akan mengembangkan apa yang disebut sebagai far abroad strategy, yaitu keseruan bagi maupun simpatisan dimanapun berada, katakanlah, untuk tidak berangkat, tidak usah ke Suriah atau ke Irak lagi. Mereka sudah hancur jangan karena melawan pasukan koalisi yang dipimpin Amerika. Melainkan cukup melakukan serangan di negara asal masing-masing. Contoh di Eropa, di Paris, di Marawi, Filipina, dan Tamrin, Jakarta, dan sebagainya. Jadi mereka dianjurkan mengobarkan terorisme di negaranya masing-masing, tidak usah harus ke Irak. Ini sangat berbahaya. Apa yang saya katakan ini senada dengan kata-kata Muhyiddin Yassin yang sekarang itu juga mengatakan ISIS akan menggeser operasinya ke Asia Tenggara karena bahaya dan Suriah. Di harian bernama 27 November 2019, harian utama di Malaysia, beliau menyatakan Malaysia will not rule out the probability of ISIS shifting its operation to the Southeast Asian region following the death of its leader Abu Bakr Baghdadi in an attack in Syria last October. There are also growing threats from returning foreign terrorist fighters, online radicalization, and lone wolf attack, serangan teroris oleh perseorangan, lone wolf attack. Jadi apa yang dikatakan oleh tokoh dari Amerika tadi dan juga oleh apa yang disebut oleh Pak Muhyiddin Yassin itu sama. Kita sekarang jangan melihat konsentrasi hanya ke Irak dan Suriah, tapi mereka justru karena repatriasi itu akan potensial threat terhadap bahaya nasional masing-masing negara yang menerima mereka. Jadi harus dilakukan secara hati-hati, harus hati-hati. Persoalan hukum yang mengemuka, ya ini banyak dibahas. Satu, persoalan tindakan pencabutan kewarganegaraan RI atau Revocation of Citizenship of Indonesia yang banyak diusul. Ini justru cenderung mengakui melegitimasi ISIS sebagai negara. Ya. Mereka itu bukan negara. Berdasarkan United Nations Security Council Resolution 2249 tadi, ditegaskan di situ ISIS bukan state. Jadi konvensi Montevideo tahun 33 itu katakanlah syarat dari keberadaan suatu negara itu harus ada unsur konstitutif, ada wilayah, rakyat dan pemerintahan yang berdaulat, dan unsur deklaratif, yaitu pengakuan de jure dan de facto dari negara-negara lain. Tidak ada yang, mereka itu organisasi teroris, bukan state katakanlah. Jadi kalau kita mencabut kewarganegaraan itu seolah-olah kita menghargai mereka itu sebagai suatu state, ya, suatu state. Jadi ini harus hati-hati, jangan sampai dilakukan. ISIS adalah organisasi teroris. Lihat PP nomor 2 tahun 2007 tentang tata cara memperoleh kehilangan, pembatalan, dan memperoleh katakanlah kembali kewarganegaraan. Hilangnya katakanlah status kewarganegaraan seseorang RI pertama karena memperoleh kewarganegaraan lain atas kemauan sendiri. Ya, kita harus mengkaji betul-betul dana kewarganegaraan itu. Yang kedua, tidak menolak atau melepaskan kewarganegaraan lain. Seorang yang bersangkutan mendapatkan kesempatan untuk itu. Jadi ada double citizenship itu tidak dikenal di Indonesia. Juga status juga tidak dikenal. Masuk dinas tentara asing tanpa izin, prison. Itu bukan tentara asing, itu tentara teroris. Jadi tidak berlaku. Secara sukarela masuk dalam dinas negara asing. Dia bukan negara. Secara sukarela mengangkat sumpah atau janji setia kepada negara asing, ini dia juga bukan negara. Turut serta dalam pemilihan yang bersifat ketatanegaraan untuk suatu negara asing, ini juga tidak. Mempunyai paspor dari negara asing, tidak ada. Bertempat tinggal di luar wilayah RI selama 5 tahun, terus-menerus tanpa alasan sah, dan tidak menyatakan keinginan untuk tetap menjadi warga negara Indonesia. WNI dinyatakan hilang kewarganegaranya oleh Presiden atas permohonannya sendiri apabila sudah berusia 18 tahun atau sudah kawin, tinggal di luar negeri, dan tidak akan menjadi tanpa kewarganegaraan atau stateless. Jadi persyaratan ini tidak berlaku bagi mereka. Mereka itu ISIS bukan negara, tapi organisasi teroris dengan United Security Council yang saya sebutkan tadi. Catatan, Indonesia tidak mengatur kewarganegaraan ganda atau stateless. Yang ketiga, dengan demikian mencabut kewarganegaraan akan meniadakan menjadikan seorang menjadi stateless dan akan membahayakan keamanan global karena sulit dimonitor dan cenderung dapat mengembangkan ekstremisme, radikalisme mereka yang melawan pemerintah, masyarakat, dan bahkan perdamaian dunia. Kemudian identifikasi secara teliti tentang kebenaran seseorang sebagai foreign terrorist fighter sangat penting. Penuntutan atas dasar pasal 12B dari Undang-Undang tahun 2018 yang baru itu terbuka lebar dengan ancaman pidana berat, pidana penjara antara 4-15 tahun. Dalam hal ini kerjasama dengan pemerintahan Irak, katakan atau Syria dan Turki, bahkan diperlukan instrumen undang-undang imigrasi dan sebagainya. Jadi ini kalau kita kembalikan serahkan pada mekanisme teritorialitas tadi yang dikatakan ya, dari negara yang bersangkutan. atau diserahkan pada pengadilan internasional. Hanya saja kalau kita misalkan pada ICC, International Criminal Court itu ada kesulitan, tapi bisa dikategorikan sebagai non-state actor yang melanggar kejahatan terhadap kemanusiaan, crime against humanity, yang melakukan serangan sistematis atau meluas kepada penduduk sipil, dan itu kelanjutan dari kebijakan negara bukan, tapi kelanjutan dari apa yang disebut sebagai non-state actor policy. Ya. Maka bisa berupa genocide atau bisa merupakan apa yang disebut sebagai crime against humanity. Di sisi lain, saudara sekalian, mencegah supporter ISIS kembali cenderung dianggap dapat melanggar Undang 12 2005. Jadi ada instrumen internasional, jangan sampai kita dituduh melanggar Undang-Undang 12 2005. Kita kaji yang telah meratifikasi. Kita telah meratifikasi ICCPR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, pada tahun 2005 dengan Undang-Undang nomor 12 yang menjamin WNI dapat keluar masuk negara, artikel 12 ayat 2, ICCPR free to leave any country subject to any restriction. Tapi harus katakanlah dibaca juga 12 ayat 3-nya juga diatur except kecuali provided by law to protect national security, public order, etc. Jadi boleh kita mengecualikan itu human rights yang disebut sebagai derogatory rights itu, tapi dengan alasan national security, public order dan sebagainya. Kita tidak perlu khawatir. Dalam memerangi terorisme, HAM harus dihormati. Dalam pasal 2 Perpu nomor 1 tahun 2002 yang tetap berlaku sekalipun ada undang-undang baru, Undang-Undang 5 tahun 12, namun harus dalam bandingan dan keseimbangan antara HAM dan kebebasan orang dengan kepentingan perdamaian dan keamanan nasional dan internasional. Jadi dalam pasal 2 itu disebutkan pemberantasan terorisme tidak boleh mengesampingkan HAM, kecuali tadi dikatakan ya, berkaitan dengan kebebasan orang dengan kepentingan perdamaian dan keamanan nasional dan internasional. Dalam pasal 2 Perpu, dan itu masih berlaku sekarang, bahwa sebagai negara Pancasila dan negara demokrasi, penghormatan terhadap human rights itu harus, namun harus juga dengan pertimbangan aspek-aspek yang lain dalam satu equilibrium. Kontra-radikalisasi dan deradikalisasi yang komprehensif, kalau kontra itu terhadap orang yang potensial, tapi yang deradikalisasi bagi orang yang sudah terpapar, katakanlah, harus dilakukan menghadapi mereka. Bisa dicek ini dalam Undang-Undang nomor 5 tahun 2013. Wanita dan anak yang tidak terlibat atas dasar Undang-Undang nomor 5 tahun 2013 harus diperhatikan. Sebab tidak semua istri mereka independen dalam menentukan sikap. Bahkan ada yang merupakan korban penipuan atau victim of deception. Bahkan banyak ex-kombatan ISIS sendiri yang merasa menyesal telah tertipu oleh kampanye dari ISIS, jika mereka berbondong-bondong pergi ke sana. Yang aneh, ya, yang sangat aneh bagi saya. Ya. Ex-ISIS, katakanlah, melanggar pasal 23 Undang-Undang 12 2006 tentang kewarganegaraan Indonesia dan mengkhianati bangsa dan negara. Kemudian, sebagian besar rakyat Indonesia tetap mempertimbangkan ancaman besar terorisme sesuai dengan konsideran Undang-Undang nomor 52 tahun 2020. Masalah yang dipertaruhkan itu bukan masalah keamanan, tapi juga kedaulatan negara, ideologi Pancasila, dan tujuan nasional yang tersurat dan tersirat di dalam pembukaan dasar. Itu yang dipertaruhkan. Hanya untuk kepentingan beberapa orang, dan belum tentu mereka itu sadar betul. Kalau masuk sini harus dihukum dulu, ya, deradikalisasi. Tapi harus sangat selektif. Jadi kita harus sangat hati-hati karena yang dipertaruhkan terhadap undang-undang terorisme itu adalah sangat besar, yaitu kepentingan nasional dan internasional yang sangat mendasar. Jadi saudara sekalian, ini sesuatu hal yang betul-betul memprihatinkan. Jangan tidak asal ngomong, tapi betul-betul BNPT saya kira sudah tahu ini. Ya. BNPT sebagai fasilitator presiden untuk menentukan kebijakan nasional untuk menghadapi terorisme ini, suatu lembaga yang sangat penting. Ya. Di situ ada TNI, ada Polri, ada para ahli, dan tokoh-tokoh, katakanlah agama dan sebagainya, yang sangat akurat, hati-hati di dalam melakukan tugasnya sebagai badan penanggulangan terorisme. Ya. Jadi kesimpulan dan rekomendasi saya, saudara sekalian. Satu, repatriasi harus dilakukan hati-hati melalui kalkulasi komprehensif calculation aspek positif dan negatifnya. Terjadi perbenturan dan dilema pilihan yang sulit antara HAM dan keamanan nasional dan internasional yang dipertaruhkan tadi. Kemudian repatriasi harus dilakukan sangat selektif dengan keputusan politik. Dengan keputusan politik itu keputusan presiden katakanlah. Dan Pak Jokowi sendiri tidak menyatakan sebenarnya secara pribadi beliau menolak repatriasi itu. Tapi bagaimana juga di suatu negara demokratis, secara masyarakat dan BNPT juga diperhatikan. Tapi saya katakan harus dilakukan sangat aktif. Kemudian pengutamaan pada wanita dan anak-anak ada yang sudah jatuh yang itu diutamakan, tapi melalui suatu seleksi karena mereka masuk potensial yang kena Counter-Radicalization dan banyak juga terorisme di Indonesia tidak hanya oleh suaminya tapi juga oleh istrinya dan sebagainya yang kejadian-kejadian. Kasihan kalau dilihat, tapi ada juga yang sangat ekstrim mereka dan berani mengorbankan dirinya seperti kejadian di Surabaya dan sebagainya. Perlu dibentuk tim lintas sektoral yang dikatakan sebagai satgas tadi dan melibatkan ex-teroris juga. Ex-teroris yang sudah sadar banyak ya. Ini bisa dilibatkan. Mereka yang tahu spirit and soul dari terorisme tadi. LPSK jelas, Lembaga Perlindungan Saksi dan Korban, alim ulama, perguruan tinggi, di beberapa perguruan tinggi itu ada The Center of Study of Terrorism, dan psikolog dan sebagainya, behavior scientist, yang harus melakukan wawancara yang penilaian individual yang mendalam di bawah koordinasi BNPT. Jadi orang teman dari BNPT saya tolong sampaikan pesan pada pimpinannya, Anda sangat diharapkan agar menjaga perdamaian dan keamanan nasional ini. Jadi BNPT saya kira sudah tahu tugasnya, mereka akan sangat hati-hati. Mereka yang pantas direpatriasi harus dikarantina seperti COVID-19 ya, lebih dulu melalui proses kontra-radikalisasi dan deradikalisasi yang intensif. Proses hukum bagi yang telah melakukan tindak pidana sesuai dengan Undang-Undang Nomor 5 2016 itu harus dilakukan kalau mereka ada yang terseleksi bisa masuk. Tapi mereka itu serahkan aja pada negara yang bersangkutan ya, dengan rasa teritorial tadi dan juga bisa oleh pengadilan internasional. Kerjasama dengan negara-negara Irak, Syria dan Turki untuk identifikasi secara individual itu harus dilakukan. Dan sistem monitoring berkelanjutan setelah repatriasi selektif itu tetap harus dipantau. Banyak sekali ex-teroris yang bisa keluar dari penjara, ini harus tetap dikendalikan dan di bawah pemantauan. Dan ini tidak mudah, jumlahnya ratusan. Ya, jadi ini betul-betul tantangan bagi BNPT dan pemerintah Indonesia. Dan perlu sesuatu yang sangat penting, apa yang dilakukan negara lain itu merupakan pembelajaran dan penugasan tugas setempat untuk akurasi proses repatriasi selektif. Kemudian sebagai closing statement, saya ingin menyatakan UN General Assembly atau Sidang Umum PBB tahun 1994 menyatakan bahwa terrorism is criminal acts intended or calculated to provoke a state of terror in the general public, a group of person or particular person for political purposes. Sekarang di Indonesia tidak hanya political purposes, tapi juga keamanan, gangguan keamanan dan ideologi. Are in any circumstance injustice yang tidak bisa dibenarkan, unjustifiable, whatever apapun the consideration of political, philosophical, ideological, racial, ethnic, religious, or any other nature that may be invoked to justify them. Jadi pernyataan PBB ini sudah jelas sekali bahwa kita itu negara demokrasi yang menghormati HAM, tapi ada yang lebih penting ya, karena HAM itu dikenal apa yang disebut ada yang derogable dan non-derogable. Non-derogable tidak bisa kita utik, tapi yang derogable itu bisa diatur dengan undang-undang, dibatasi, ada restriction dan limitation atas dasar keamanan nasional, ketertiban umum, prinsip demokrasi, moral, agama, dan sebagainya. Terima kasih saudara sekalian. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you for Muladi. Thank you Prof Muladi, matur nuwun atas pendapat Prof Muladi dan pemaparan Prof Muladi yang sangat komprehensif dan ditinjau dari berbagai macam spektrum maupun dari berbagai macam perspektif. Okay, now we are moving from the question and answer session. Okay, is there any have question on the floor that will be have delivered the question to address by Prof Muladi? Is there any? Okay, I'm repeat again. Is there any question? I think it's very. I think the explanation from the Prof Muladi is very clearly. Maybe I will giving the time also, Prof. Another panelist, Prof Muladi atau Pak Andika. Maybe from Pak Andika, maybe you can give some the response for the statement of Prof Muladi. Time is yours.
Terima kasih Pak Pulung, Mas Pulung. Kesempatan ini, again, it's such an honor Pak untuk ketemu dengan Profesor Muladi. Saya ingat dulu berapa tahun yang lalu Prof itu masih menjadi kepala Lemhanas, dan kami pernah diundang bicara mengenai, jadi salah satu konsentrasi Lemhanas itu mengenai transnational crime, bagaimana nanti Indonesia bisa menanggulangi kejahatan-kejahatan tersebut. Dan saya sempat waktu itu bilang, dan ini selalu saya ingat, bahwa kebetulan saya waktu di Kementerian Luar Negeri, dan kita bicara mengenai yang saya bilang bahwa cuma satu negara aja di dunia ini yang selalu menggaungkan masalah perang, dan itu ada dua perang, yaitu satu perang against drugs dan satu lagi war against terrorism, dan itu dilakukan oleh Amerika. Sementara kalau kita lihat tadi seperti yang dikatakan Prof, itu benar sekali pada saat berbicara mengenai berbagai resolusi di PBB dan juga resolusi Dewan Keamanan PBB yang menyebut bahwa terorisme itu sebetulnya suatu kejahatan, sehingga pendekatannya adalah criminal justice system, dan inilah yang selama ini diterapkan oleh Indonesia, dan melihat terorisme sebagai suatu kejahatan, maka ini menjadi penting dan berbeda. Sementara yang kita lihat memang berkembangnya dengan ISIS ini, settingannya memang kalau ada beberapa negara menyebut ini sebagai non-international armed conflict, tapi juga di sisi lain melihat bahwa betul sekali seperti kata Prof, ISIS itu bukan suatu negara, tapi ISIS itu adalah suatu organisasi terorisme, dan ini memang keluar dari resolusi DK juga yang menyebutkan bahwa mereka kan ada dua dari 178, yaitu satu sebagai entitas atau suatu individu. So ISIS ini dianggap sebagai entitas atau organisasi teroris, sehingga tidak bisa melulu kita bicara mengenai ISIS sebagai suatu negara. Saya setuju sekali dengan apa yang disampaikan oleh Prof. Tidak serta-merta orang kehilangan, memang banyak di luar negeri menyebutkan revocation, itu pencabutan. Sementara di Indonesia tidak mengenal pencabutan, justru Indonesia mengenalnya kehilangan kewarganegaraan, sehingga materinya pun berbeda dengan revocation. Sementara kalau kita ada revocation, ini dilakukan oleh negara-negara di mana citizennya memiliki dua kewarganegaraan. Di Indonesia, ya kalau itu asalnya dari Brebes, ya sampai ke luar negeri dia juga dari Brebes, dan dia tetap sebagai orang Indonesia, sehingga tidak mungkin kalau dia kehilangan kewarganegaraannya, dia masih memiliki warga negara lain. Nah ini yang mengakibatkan negara akan membuat orang itu stateless, dan oleh karena itu saya setuju dengan Prof. Memang benar kalau kita bicara human rights, ada yang derogable and ada yang tidak non-derogable, dan saya rasa kalau kita bicara mengenai citizenship, mengenai statelessness, itu kita sudah bicara mengenai derogable, sehingga tidak bisa serta-merta negara menghilangkan kewarganegaraan seorang dan menyebabkan orang itu menjadi stateless. Saya setuju sekali dengan apa yang dilihat oleh Profesor. Muladi, dan selalu has always been my idol sejak saya masih muda dan memulai kerja saya sebagai PNS. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Andika. Muladi untuk menanggapi Ron sekaligus juga untuk memberikan statement penutup, Prof. Monggo, Prof.
Ya, terima kasih dari BNPT. Saya ingat saudara juga dari manusia. Jadi apa yang disebut sebagai BNPT? Ya, kenapa yang tokoh-tokohnya Pak Alius dan sebelumnya dan sesudahnya ini juga pas Kapolda Irian Papua, bahwa organisasi BNPT itu merupakan learning organization, organisasi yang penuh pembelajaran dan jasanya sudah besar dan disempurnakan dengan Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 2018. Jadi sebagai learning organization, supaya sustainable undang-undang organisasi dan semakin baik, itu ada beberapa faktor yang menentukan dan tidak perlu dilakukan. Saya kira sudah dilakukan, tapi saya memberikan masukan berdasarkan pendapat dari Peter Senge. Peter Senge itu dari MIT ya, yang menulis tentang the fifth katakanlah disiplin ya, yang sangat terkenal buku ini. Satu adalah harus mempertahankan eksistensi keberadaan personal atau individual mastery, yang lintas sektoral. Ya, jadi tokoh-tokoh yang punya kapasitas yang hebat itu harus ada di situ. Ini lembaga yang luar biasa. Yang kedua adalah ada prinsip yang namanya share vision. Share vision itu harus ada visi bersama. Visi bersama yang dibangun, bukan one man show tapi visi bersama. Dan saya yakin juga ini sudah dilakukan, tapi perlu disempurnakan. Yang kedua adalah yang disebut sebagai tough model yang tangguh, yang selalu mengidentifikasi ancaman, gangguan, hambatan, dan tantangan. Apalagi sekarang merupakan suatu krisis analisator terhadap presiden, katakanlah. Yang tidak kalah pentingnya lagi adalah yang disebut the fifth discipline itu oleh Peter Senge, yaitu apa yang disebut sebagai system approach, pendekatan sistem. Pendekatan sistem tidak bisa hanya mempertimbangkan satu faktor saja, faktor politik, keamanan, dan sebagainya. Tapi harus melihat sebagai bangunan yang penuh dengan purposive behavior, independency, interdependency, ya, kemudian holism, dan openness, dan control mechanism. Dan semua akan mendukung BNPT. Dan yang tidak kalah pentingnya lagi adalah cooperation, coordination, and collaboration berdasarkan prinsip one line comment. Jadi setelah semuanya diwajukan, one line comment itu dari presiden. Jadi kita tidak perlu ragu-ragu dan kita harus mengadakan suatu kerjasama dengan dunia internasional, baik melalui UNODC dan sebagainya, dan juga Amerika, dan juga Asionopol, kemudian Interpol, dan sebagainya. Jadi saya yakin dan sangat optimis dengan hancurnya ISIS ini, tapi kita harus tetap waspada sehubungan dengan pendapat dari tokoh-tokoh internasional tadi, International Study of War tadi, Marim, dan sebagainya, mempointin mereka melakukan perjuangan yang jauh untuk kembali ke negara masing-masing untuk mengorganisir teror di negara masing-masing. Ini harus diwaspadai dan harus ada suatu sustainable monitoring terhadap mereka. Demikian Pak Moderator, matur nuwun, terima kasih.
Okay, matur nuwun, Prof. Thank you. Okay, before that I have start the session 3, maybe Pak Andika can also deliver about the closing statement. For Pak Andika, time is yours.
Certainly, terima kasih Bapak Moderator, Profesor Dr. Muladi. Certainly an honor untuk bisa bicara di forum ini, dan kita lihat bahwa memang it's an exciting, kemudian juga challenging topic kalau kita selalu bicara mengenai repatriasi warga negara Indonesia dari daerah konflik. Ini certainly it has been a challenge untuk khususnya Kedeputian 3 di bidang kerjasama internasional, karena memang pada saat kita bicara mengenai terorisme kita tidak bisa bekerja sendiri, dan always menjadi salah satu slogan yang selalu kita sebutkan bahwa we need to enhance international cooperation dalam rangka untuk menanggulangi terorisme sebagai suatu ancaman bersama, bukan hanya ancaman Indonesia saja, tapi juga menjadi ancaman di tingkat kawasan dan juga ancaman di tingkat dunia. Certainly, kami terima kasih juga kepada Prof yang telah memberikan kami pesan-pesan khusus baik kepada pimpinan maupun kepada jajaran BNPT untuk selalu meningkatkan kinerja kita dalam rangka untuk menanggulangi terorisme baik di tingkat nasional dan certainly juga di tingkat internasional. Saya melihat salah satunya adalah Indonesia ini sebetulnya memiliki pengalaman yang cukup banyak, utamanya dalam penanggulangan terorisme. Kita memiliki kebijakan yang jelas, kita sudah revisi undang-undang terkait terorismenya. Kemudian kita dilihat juga sebagai salah satu negara yang memiliki perundangan legislasi yang cukup kompleks dan cukup banyak terkait dengan pencegahan. Kemudian ada satu peraturan pemerintah sendiri mengenai pencegahan. Terakhir adalah bahwa salah satu fokus dari upaya penanggulangan terorisme ini juga bicara mengenai korban sebagaimana disampaikan oleh Profesor Dr. Muladi. Itu merupakan perkembangan sendiri. Baru saja bulan lalu kita mensahkan PP nomor 35 tahun 2020 tentang kompensasi dan restitusi terhadap korban terorisme, sehingga ini kita lihat bahwa dari segi kesiapan Indonesia infrastruktur legislasi sudah cukup, sementara kalau kita bicara mengenai upayanya, justru Indonesia juga termasuk negara yang leading dalam upaya prosecuting of terrorists, dan saya juga lihat undang-undang kita itu dengan adanya revisi tahun 2018 menandakan bahwa kita juga mempersiapkan diri dalam rangka untuk mengadres masalah-masalah seperti foreign terrorist fighters, kemudian juga warga negara Indonesia yang berangkat ke luar negeri, sehingga sebetulnya Indonesia ini siap untuk melakukan ini semua dan siap dan terdepan di antara negara-negara lain dalam penanggulangan terorisme. Dan kebetulan bulan Februari yang lalu, sebelum meningkatnya isu mengenai COVID, kita dikunjungi oleh UNOCT, United Nations Office on Counter-Terrorism. Sekarang kan udah ada satu office itu di UN sana, dipimpin oleh Mr. Voronkov. Yang kedua juga ada UNCTAD datang, yaitu Executive Director-nya, UN Counter-Terrorism Executive Directorate yang di bawah Dewan Keamanan PBB, dan mereka mengharapkan Indonesia bisa memainkan peran. Salah satunya yang diharapkan Indonesia ini juga bisa menulari lah, bukan dengan virus, tapi dengan menulari upaya kita dalam menanggulangi terorisme khususnya kepada negara-negara di South. Nah, ini yang menjadi harapan dari mereka, karena memang ketimbang negara-negara yang lain ini, negara lain Indonesia ini sudah cukup maju. Dari kami sekian, terima kasih kepada Bapak Moderator, kepada Alsa untuk mengundang kami bicara di sini. Salam hormat juga dari Kepala BNPT, kebetulan hari ini beliau ada tugas sehingga meminta kami untuk mewakili beliau. Dan ketiga juga kepada Profesor Dr. Muladi, certainly a pleasure Pak untuk ketemu dengan Bapak kembali, dan selalu dalam kuliah-kuliah Bapak itu I learn a lot, dan memang hidup ini adalah suatu proses belajar, dan dari Bapak kami mendapatkan wisdom dan guna juga untuk meningkatkan kapasitas kami. Terima kasih banyak. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andika, for the closing statement. Now I'm declare that this is the end of the sessions. For me as moderator, if I have a mistake for the deliver or as duty of the moderator, I beg the forgiveness, and also I yield my time to the Mr. Master Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Ya, mantap.
Okay.
Oh, mantap.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Muladi, and now it's the time for us to give the token of appreciation to our third speaker, and it will be given by Gregorius Alexander. To Gregorius Alexander and Professor Muladi, you may proceed.
Baik, sebelumnya saya ucapkan terima kasih dan rasa hormat saya setinggi-tingginya untuk Profesor Dr. Haji Muladi. Terima kasih Prof atas materi yang sudah diberikan, ilmu-ilmu yang diberikan. untuk token of appreciation ini sebenarnya hanya sebagai simbolis gitu, Prof. Nanti plakat akan dikirimkan oleh teman-teman panitia. Sekali lagi terima kasih, Prof. Semoga sehat selalu.
Yes. That's good.
And before we close this meeting, we would like to give our best regards to our moderator by giving token of appreciation that will be given by Nico Maulana to Mr. Pulung, Bibi Heri Hananto, and to Nico Maulana. You may proceed.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih MC. Sebelumnya saya terima kasih sekali kepada Bapak Pulung untuk telah memoderatori jalannya diskusi pada kali ini. Walaupun ada sedikit kendala terkait dengan memang koneksi, namun dari kami selaku English Development Division menghargai dan mengapresiasi jalannya diskusi pada kali ini. Sebelumnya terima kasih banyak pada Bapak Pulung. Nanti untuk perihal berkaitan dengan plak ini hanya untuk simbolis, Pak. Nanti untuk perihal plakat nanti akan dikirim ke kediaman Bapak, begitu Pak. Terima kasih Pak sebelum. Saya kembalikan ke MC, silakan.
Okay, the giving of the token appreciation to our moderator, it indicates that we have reached to the end of the event. And thank you for all of the participants. And one more thing, there will be a photo session to end this event. So we would like to ask all of the participants to turn on their camera to